What's up, y'all? It's your boy Aniki. Let me make sure you can hear me. Hope everybody's been doing well. I'm gonna cover this latest chapter. I'm not here. I'll let everybody get in here. That's gonna be here. So we left off with the resurrection of Bakugo. Uh, well, I shouldn't even say the resurrection. Him finally becoming active again. One of the things that we talked about last week was how this sets up both of them to embody All Might's ideology here, with winning to save and saving to win. Of course, with Bakugo being more than likely emphasized for saving than being emphasized for winning, as Shigaraki is way higher scale than him. And it's arguable that fighting against Baby for one is going to be an issue. What up, Tunisia, J. Michael Holmes, and the Madman? Hope y'all are doing well. Don't forget to drop those likes on getting in. It makes life easier for everybody. No butter, help a brother out. But yeah, I'm gonna hop straight into the chapter. I think that way we get the fastest coverage. Plus, I feel like with the events of this chapter, it's easier to avoid somebody accidentally spoiling. So yeah, let's hop right in. Move this over here because I prefer having my stuff on the big screen. Continue down this path, and you will encounter a villain. What awaits you then is an unspeakably gruesome death. And we see him in the process. Man, that really is like Baby for one, though. His arms are uncomfortably long for his body, but that's fine. That's very all for one. Freakish little boy. The wind was blowing. See blood coming out of All Might's mouth. Maybe I'll bake a pie today. Let's see. See somebody. Well, that guy is out in the prairies shepherding dogs. A random civilian sneezing. We got a neat. Forget that far off danger. Focus on today's deadline, people. Now that's some managerial stuff right there. You got crazy battles going on, and your boss is telling you to focus on work instead of the potential of dying. That atmospheric current is odd. All right, so we got the news lady, the weather lady everybody fell for. Let's see. At the top of UA, we're getting some perspective here. Huge explosions. I'm guessing this is the byproduct of Deku and Shigaraki's battle. You can see buildings falling over and stuff like that, with Bakugo just standing on the edge, on the precipice, ready to leap. Meryl, that little stunt of yours is all over the internet already. It may ride east on the jet stream and affect the weather in North America. Martin, food's on the table. You see somebody's watching. All Might. Don't die on us. All right, Jason, that's good to hear. Let's see. Oh my God. Not the biz app randomly, or the site gets randomly funky on me sometimes. Bakugo, Deku, they make eye contact. Explosions. Straight to Deku. You see Shigaraki looking confused as he grabs him, exploding around and around and around. Boy, there is no escaping the blowback if you activate gear shift again. It must be after you found the assured path to victory. The second's gear shift. What? And he's thrown Bakugo using the. Ooh, boy. You won't make it in time, but you know that, don't you? The All Might within you always used to show up all fake and fuzzy because he was still alive, yeah. Now he's looking more solid, really taking form. You know what that means. The man showed the world a dream, and with his death, the dream is over. Back to harsh reality. Let's see. Used gear shift to accelerate Bakugo harder. You can see that he straight up is also excellent details on Horikoshi's part to emphasize the slipstream that's being created by Bakugo being thrown, because you actually have the rain is moving laterally to show that it's kind of being forced around the wind pop like that he's creating. Let's see, we still got the sparks. It's someone's clenched fist, someone's deep exhalation. I wanted to prevent a future in which you get killed. I searched for a way to change things. It's a sort of energy. I believe that now. Energy from striving for a certain future. Energy from wishing. Can the flap of a butterfly's wing in Brazil bring about a hurricane in Texas? Someone's prayers. Gran Torino, Business Course Kids, Melissa Shields, Can't You See Kun and Friends, Suka Uchi. Let's see, how many more recognizable characters? Oh, the Binging Balls kid, along with the kid Bakugo met and inspired. I don't think we ever got a name for him. Let's see, somebody with some piercings. It's like random old dude. Kid with 3 eyes. I'm trying to think about if we've seen him before. Regardless, we got a lot of details for these random people watching. Let's see if I can find anybody else. A random businessman, looks like. All right, let's see this. All right. Wait, I muted the stream? Okay. Just that was obvious. Okay. You got way stronger. You got All Might to recognize you. So why was it me who put an end to All Might? Bakugo, kid. See that Bakugo has successfully grabbed All Might from the blown off arms of All for One. And the vestige has gone back to Cloudy. Time to win this. Hold on, let me go ahead and send the invite link just in case you want to come through today. No, not that. That's just stopping the live stream. Let me send this over. I'm chewing on this a little because I have mixed feelings. I think the speed at which Bakugo is moving, that's fine. I do like the idea. So part of me, this is weird because there's multiple ways. I have to decide which I like more. I guess is what it really comes down to. Because on one hand, I think All Might dying doesn't contradict his character. I think it lines up kind of perfectly for him to actually reach that conclusion. On the other hand, I understand the perspective that the mentor dying is in fact a standard trope.
It
But
is? I didn't know that.
hey, what up, Thomas?
Hello.
There's another part of me that also feels like there's because I don't feel like All Might dying would have contradicted his character, but I feel like the people who claimed him dying and that this would have contradicted his character are now in a catch-22, where I feel like they're probably still going to find a way to hate it anyway, so you might as well just done it.
Oh, for sure. It's the MHA community. What do you expect?
But I do think that if we look at the series overall, I also think that Bakugo hasn't gotten any like real wins, which like he's won the sports festival, but there was there's a caveat to that, right? Like All Might managed, like Deku, he beats Deku during Deku versus Kachan too. But
would the win be in Crescent be against a villain?
Right. So it's like there's like asterisk on some of his wins anyway. So I think him getting this win on All Might, but I also feel like there should be, as hopeful as MHA is, there has to be some actual more tragedy for our heroes in order to ensure the proper shift forward to prevent recreating the same situation like 20, 30 years down the line. Just with kids with more powerful quirks or whatever the case may be. So I definitely wanted, and it's not like I'm not going to say that there's no stakes because that's done. Like Hawk's already lost his quirk. Endeavor lost an arm, is basically not fighting ever again.
Jiro's quirk got cut in half.
So like we have a lot of maiming.
We also have a second what's the word? Like Deku has used gear shift again. So we are nearing Deku's exhaustion, which can be seen. Like he's fighting through it. I've seen people go, oh, there won't be a consequence. I disagree. Also, I love the reverse X catapult from the movie.
Yes.
I love that so much.
It isn't that I think that the destruction of Japan isn't bad enough. It's that because Toga sacrificed herself, because Dabi's not reasonably making it through any of this, I don't want the people of Japan and the heroes that are a little less connected to the stuff to take away the wrong message of, damn, we should have beat their asses harder. I don't want the solution to be we need to be more willing to kill villains early. So I'm a little like, and obviously Horikoshi doesn't have to write that. It's just that it's kind of similar to the way like Dabi's dance worked, where I remember when Roger came on and he was like, well, nobody's gonna like buy into this, right? And I'm like, oh no, definitely. People will look for excuses to hate, and people who were pretty spiteful or had views adjacent to the people within Tartarus, I feel like will be more easily enabled if the solution to all these problems is just, well, all those villains died and nobody like really has pause for reflection to really think about like, okay, they were upset, but we just whooped their asses, so we can just keep doing how we used to do it. I would definitely want it to kind of be like, no, we lost this, and if we want to make sure we don't feel this loss, we need to make sure that like the people who are good are actually good. So it's weird because it's like you can still get there, but I think it's harder if the only people who kind of maybe understand what's going on here and why certain things need to change are like Deku and Uraraka and Shoto, right? Like I don't want just them to be like impacted personally by tragedies. So that's why where All Might dying kind of comes into a way like where people are like look for every avenue to try to make sure that this doesn't happen. But so that's why I'm mixed on All Might. But I did see, I think somebody said that, or it might have even been you, that was just saying that they think it's going to be more like Shigaraki gets to be the source of tragedy, not All for One.
You mean with like All Might dying by Shigaraki's hands?
Yeah, like causing like real problems for them.
Because one of my biggest issues with this chapter is like I get what Hori was trying to do with this chapter, but it felt like the rescue of All Might was too easy. And obviously we see like in the final panel, like All For One stares directly at Bakugo. He's pissed. So unless the next chapter starts with a chase, I feel like we kind of got off easier here. So if we don't get that chase, Shigaraki will be the best candidate.
And based off the fact that Gear Shift was applied to Bakugo, I don't know how long that's going to last. If it's going to permanently be faster for like the next 5 minutes or what. But if that is the case, it does give us a really good excuse for Bakugo to be able to hang with All For One for a while.
Yes.
Even though like it's arguable that exploding is already a big enough upgrade that like an active and awake Bakugo can hang with them regardless and just need the speed to cover the distance. But because they do seem to be like several kilometers apart. And honestly, I kind of want, it wouldn't make Bakugo's moment worthless. It would instead kind of make it where Bakugo saved them. And because the thing here is that even if Shiggy kills All Might, I want to make this clear. Bakugo saying no to All For One and taking that moment from him and taking that kill from him is still a W because it's still breaking the machinations of All For One.
I also think it also comes down to Bakugo has been feeling like he's the one who caused All Might's downfall. Not only did he kind of give what's the word? Not only did he make up for that, but he also made up for chapter 1. Like this is Bakugo's time to save him.
Yeah. And Mr. Andrew said with the super chat, I mean, as long as All Might is in the area, and that's kind of true, right? As long as All Might is anywhere near the battlefield, there's a question around his survivability. Because he's not walking anywhere, so he's going to have to be taken away from the battlefield by Bakugo. And the reality is that really good for Deku? As much as people say, well, I don't want Bakugo to yuck up Deku's fight, blah, blah, blah. Do you want Deku to really try to 1v2 All For One and Shigaraki when he's been stalemating Shigaraki this whole time?
Do you think Hori's going to have All For One use the glue quirk on All Might and retrieve him, and then Bakugo has to come back again? Because unless Bakugo like drops off All Might and heads back, I feel like that's the best solution.
And that's another thing, is that the glue quirk does apply to All Might. So unless Bakugo can speed him out of glue quirk range and speed back to stall him, this is just like the start to Bakugo trying to keep him away from what I find interesting about this though is that the vestige space has always been either sci-fi or mysticism, right? And to a certain degree, this chapter kind of confirms that it actually is more in the realm of mysticism. And the reason why I say that is because the vestige preemptively being like, yeah, I'm about to die.
Time to form.
Gives us like a hard like mysticist approach now. Like there was a sense of precognition and the spirit realm, which does make the energy, prayers, etc., a little more functional, because now like that's just like the confirmation there is like a spiritual side to quirks, and like which means that like it goes beyond, while there's a lot of like sci-fi attached to this, there is like that actual like mystical element to quirks. So there is like a bit of a network, which would imply on a certain level that it's arguable that all quirks are capable of reaching the vestige plane. It is just that most people have not been able to access it, or they don't have a quirk that necessarily gives them the ability to consciously dive into that realm. Which, I mean, the vestige space has existed the entire, like pretty much the entire series, or since fucking Sports Festival, there's been acknowledgments of the vestige realm and them like reaching out through. So it's kind of not the end of the world that we get like this kind of mystical confirmation here this late in the story, because it's been there. It's one of those things where it's like, oh, is there like a bit of a, so it does kind of make My Hero's work system both science fiction in the way that it handles like a lot of the physics, and purposely like saying like, no, we have quirks that specifically have to be able to break or bend the rules of physics to function, and they do so. But then it also says like, yeah, of course, like some of these things are a little magical, and like this mystical side of it does kind of justify that a little more. Like when Shoto creates ice, like that's pretty, like you can argue that like, yeah, you know, he's converting calories or whatever into fire and energy, and that's whatever. But like him just straight up creating blocks of ice, a little more mystical. So it kind of helps balance the books on that kind of stuff too, to justify more magic-like quirks, in my opinion, at least. Oh. Okay, did you say anything, Thomas? Because my
no.
Okay.
I was gonna ask, because I missed last week. How do you feel about Bakugo's return, or at least like, how do you feel about the chapter itself?
So I've been pro Bakugo returning. I never wanted him to have died the way he would have died, and so I kind of like the dramatic, him just kind of like waking up. What I want in this upcoming chapter, though, is I want some Bakugo introspection. Like people always say, "Oh, we don't get enough Deku introspection," but in this moment, the most important thing isn't Deku introspection, because we all know how Deku's going to feel about this. The prophecy of All Might's death has been hanging over his head. The desire to save All Might's been there since he heard about it. Yeah, so it's like, you know, we've been there with Deku already. And we purposely got that "why did I have to be the one to end All Might" brought up again in this chapter, which, so it's like, come on, give us the moment here where we get to like zero in on that a little more, and have, you know, Bakugo think about the fact that like for once he gets to save All Might. What I would also like to see, and this is a very small detail that, like, I guess some people would argue like there's no time for that, but sorry, but it's Bakugo. If he can shoot a bullet, he's got time to do this. I want him to slip that All Might card in All Might's pocket.
I mean,
he's alive! Yay!
So,
Oh man. Okay.
Excellent entrance. I was just saying, I want Bakugo to take the time to slip his card into All Might's pocket, because it's in character. It's something that, based on his reactions to shoot bullets, he has the ability to do. And we got the card emphasized twice already, so I wanted him to be. I need them to.
Well, okay.
Show me that childish part of him to slip that card in his pocket to get a sign.
All right. This is another chapter in what I like to call "Who has been paying attention to MHA" chapter, because look, there were some very vitriolic reactions to this chapter by a certain part of the fan base. Like, okay, it depends on week to week what happens. You know, like it depends on which side of the fan base is more uppity. This time it was the dude bro side of the fandom, if you will. And yeah. I just gotta say this idea that like death equals better is it's bullshit. It's stupid. It's look. This story has been saying over and over again how, like senseless sacrifice, wearing yourself down to nothing is not good. It's not a good thing. And people think that, that All Might had to die because like, oh, that would up the stakes and whatnot. I'm like, well, if I might, there's something a little more important than fear of life and stakes, and it's just ensuring that each character has a proper resolution to their character arc. I'd argue that's the most important thing.
I would argue that as soon as All for One denied All Might the chance to die on his own terms, it stops being a satisfying conclusion for All Might.
It does. Like as soon as that happened, it's like, well, okay, well, he has to be saved.
Because we can't have All Might die with All for One winning. Not because that's not like a narratively fulfilling tragedy, right? That's
Senseless.
That's just like, well, this is just really fucking disappointing. I don't want that loser getting a W at the end. Like, no. Like that's too big of a W for All for One specifically. Like Shigaraki killing All Might, cool, works. All for One getting to do it, no, fuck that guy. Fuck that guy.
He's
Flirting versus harassment.
Well, here's another thing that was interesting about Shigaraki this chapter. He said he was talking about dreams, and it's like back to reality. And if you remember, one of the first lines in the series opens and it's like, well, fantasy became reality.
Yep.
Which is that kind of same thing. And I think that's the belief Deku held at first, because he's the one narrating everything. Like he's the one, like he said, fantasy became reality. He really believed that at one point. But over the course of the series, and he says this during the Negan fight, is like, look, it's not black and white. Mm-hmm. It's a big mix of different things that ends up one giant mess of gray. And he's had to accept that over the course of the series. So I'm wondering if Shigaraki's dream of total destruction actually gets turned into a positive by Deku post-mortem, because look, there's no way Shigaraki survives this. Like, let's be clear. He has to die at the end of this.
Because even if Deku incapacitates Shigaraki and it's like, I'm okay with incapacitating you, Bakugo's gonna show up like, and I'm not. Like, come on.
Like, I mean, Deku knows what has to be done. Like, he wants to save that little part of him inside, but it's like he's not gonna choose that over the literal rest of the world. It's like he's simply not. But anyway, like I was wondering if because what Deku does in this series is he takes motivations and he takes these things that are like kind of negative, and whether he tends to or not, he does flip it to the positive. And I'm wondering if with Shigaraki, if Shigaraki's provided like a big wake-up call to like all the problems that have been going on, like over commercialization of heroes, villain disenfranchisement, further gap. Like this is ultimately kind of class warfare when you think about it, this whole series. Mm-hmm. And essentially, like I'm wondering if Deku again flips that dream towards the positive and instead demolishes those old systems that were in place causing a lot of these problems. But I think what All for One also said during Dark Deku is also true, is like what you're fighting against goes much older than Hero Society. This is simply how social organisms operate. So I don't expect every problem to be magically solved by the end of this, but I think you're going to see steps towards gradual change happening, because that's the most realistic part.
Also, another small detail that I find very satisfying about the way Bakugo saves him is, one, obviously the look on All For One's face, but two, and this kind of ties back into like All For One is never allowed to be right. He was the one in control when he was like, your growth and blah 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 don't satisfy me. It's the or interest me. It's your ties to Deku, blah blah blah. Bakugo very clearly, deliberately exploded both of his arms off while saving All Might. And you can even tell that his left arm especially is the case because it's still the one that we see steaming, and you can see an active explosion there. Which means that for all of All For One's alleged disinterest, once again, Bakugo has done something that like outright makes it where like, okay, you can say all that, but I'm on your tail. And now, as far as you're concerned, I basically just blitzed you. Like, sure, gear should help them do it, but what now, All For One?
Well, it's also interesting because look, All For One, I don't think he's actually going to be able to do anything else because like his body was already destabilizing just from using like 2 or 3 quirks.
Mm-hmm.
Like now he's like 8 years old or whatever, however old he is. It's like a little child.
Yeah, no, the image at the start of the chapter was wild. Which that's another thing too, is that All Might dying makes sense within the story still, but like All Might dying by getting ripped in half and having his entrails poured out all over All For One is just a step too far for how I would see All Might getting killed.
Yeah, that's not Hori's style. That's not MHA style. That would just be way out of place. And like that was what Night Eye saw back then. Like he couldn't account for Bakugo surviving because like that's just extremely unlikely. And so like he saw Deku unable to do anything, or rather, well, he saw All Might specifically, and he saw All For One cracking open like an egg.
Imagine the egg in the microwave.
Oh, ouch.
Oh. I mean, are you saying that I saw the JJK version of MHA?
Oh.
So you
Hey.
saw Chaco's domain expansion?
Yeah.
Oh god.
Those were the best memes.
Hey,
Seth.
Hey,
Good
Seth.
morning.
Also, hey,
Like-
Volk.
Oh, hey, Thomas. What did you think of the chapter, Seth?
Awesome. I am glad that so much was dedicated to this specific moment. Like it deserved like all the buildup. Like in terms of plot, obviously, like not a lot happened, and also everyone more or less saw it coming. But it's one of those things where the execution was just so on point. I remember way back when with the Night Eye chapter where Night Eye is kind of just musing as to what happened, and for me that wasn't particularly satisfying because it sort of just like it felt like Horikoshi was still on his training arc, so to speak, for things like this, but now when you see how he's handled this version of events, I think it was perfect. You had all the right build up from all the prayers coming from all across the arc, so I was really satisfied to see that, and it was also just a good Bakugo moment too. Like it kind of goes without saying, but this is a really, really great thing for his character, so I'm really satisfied.
Yeah, he doesn't have to feel guilty anymore. He made up for it.
Yeah.
And in regards to that Night Eye thing, that's part of why I always felt like Eri was the anomaly and it wasn't the prayers and stuff, because it like MHA at that phase of the story just had not built itself up to be like, yes, it's a hopeful series and like the goal is to like save, and the idea of like what it means to save someone is ultimately like the core of this series, but the idea that like just hoping for it to like be different was enough to beat Night Eye's quirk didn't really feel valid. It felt like, well, you're looking at a future where there's somebody rewinding time in theory. Like you're not gonna. There's a chance you just can't see time anomalies. Whereas here, it genuinely is like, no, this feels like a moment where, there's a prophecy, and I guess really what it ultimately comes down to is this is a way more satisfying, like, breaking of a prophecy than what happened back then, just due to execution and even like the surrounding circumstances.
I remember also the reactions to that chapter, because like I remember people were convinced Deku was going to fail and that something bad was going to happen. I'm like, well, the prophecy specifically said that him and Night Eye were going to die. So obviously it can't fully come true because Deku can't die. It's like, we know this.
Mm-hmm.
We know that can't happen. So it's like, what do you expect? Like, it's anime. And here's another thing.
And
I genuinely, like, I talked about this last week, Anarchy.
Mhm.
I don't think people really appreciate manga for being manga or anime for being anime. They see it through the lens, a very Western lens of like, this is like a book you're reading or a Western comic or a live action movie or TV show. It's like,
Or political commentary.
yeah, it has to be our style always. And I'm like, well, if you go in thinking of it like that, I think this is kind of where My Villain Academia comes in a little too, because that arc, as much as I love it, I think has also brought in a certain crowd that weren't really there for like what the series is really about. Like, it's a great arc. I love that arc.
The thing is I'm gonna be honest, all action series will suffer from this.
True.
If you are an action series, like for example, I love One Piece. Sometimes I'm like, Oda, please stop trying to make jokes and just give me the fucking story. But there's a large subsection of the One Piece fandom that is not actually there for the mysteries or the exploration. Like, if Volk and I really wanted to, we could probably find 1 or 2 mysteries in One Piece that we could really just sit here and like shoot the shit about for like 30-40 minutes straight.
Yeah,
because it's a story with all kinds of shit. Like, if we really wanted to sit down and talk about the D or fucking Im Sama or the history of the Gorosei, we could probably have a really good conversation.
as an aside, I really like what One Piece is setting up for Endgame with Luffy and Vivi in particular, which is freaking cool.
But there are people that like, and like, it's fun to have those like joking conversations every now and then, because like, it's just funny as hell, like some of the stuff people say, but they are genuinely only there to see who punches, kicks, cuts, slashes, shoots, whatever, harder. And One Piece is a horrible series to follow for that. Like, it just is. It's like, sorry, but now there's Looney Tunes powers being brought into fights. Like, you're not watching, like, if you're following a series just to watch people get their asses whooped, you're in for a rough time. I think that applies to like My Hero. I don't want to be mean, but like, the main series to watch or read if you really want to just see people get their asses kicked is JJK. That's your priority. Like, that's like in Jump right now, in Shonen Jump, that is the series to read if your main goal in an action series is just to watch people get their asses beat. That's the series for you, 100%. I'm not saying you gotta stop reading those other ones, but like, that's where you're gonna get that hit.
I also think with MHA in particular, it isn't just that, it's also people are expecting Hori and My Hero to do something that that Jump manga has never done before, and to revolutionize Jump as a whole, which really puts like unfairness on Hori. Like, you're giving the series a lot of expectations where it does break, but you were expecting an entire like a comic.
I don't even necessarily think they wanted to revolutionize it. I think what they want is some perfect blend of Naruto and Bleach.
What's crazy is that if we're honest, when we look at the fact that MHA did NBA week to week, was basically running a 5 months. It was 20 chapters, so basically like more like 22 chapters in one. It was 5 to 6 months.
6 months.
With no Deku in a weekly magazine, it already did kind of revolutionize the fact that you can really truly step away from your MC like that in Shonen Jump, where people don't do that. But not only like can you step away from your MC, but like you don't have to step away from your MC to just focus on like another good guy. You can step away from your MC and do an arc completely centered on villains.
Yeah,
and that's okay.
Everybody brings up Hunter x Hunter. It's like, oh, what about the Dark Continent arc or the elections, which is going on right now? Hunter x Hunter does not have clear-cut good guys and bad guys.
No,
it does not. So it's like, it's for that type of series. MHA is a series with clear-cut good guys and bad guys. There's some
and to also emphasize, Kurapika is a part of the main trio of Hunter x Hunter.
Yeah.
So doing an arc that is still heavily Kurapika centric is still not the same as just completely walking away.
I mean, if we're taking Hunter x Hunter into example, like, oh, if this is the MVA version, there's already like 2 to maybe 5 chapters focusing solely on the Phantom Troop, but it's in the Chimera Ant arc. Like, we never stepped away from Gon. We only stepped away from him for like a few chapters.
We get these pockets of Phantom Trope stuff. But ultimately, we never like just straight up are like, this is just the Phantom Trope. This is all we care about. We're not doing anything tied to anybody else. And Hisoka has been like a double agent. He's worked with the good guys. He's been the antagonist. He's basically just like this wild card that exists within the series. So when you have stuff that's focused on like what Hisoka's doing, it's not exactly focusing on strictly antagonists. It's focusing on like this wild card that's kind of been around, which I kind of want to see Hisoka meet.
And if you want like more Western influence in Jump, you're already getting it. Like this is how you meet in the middle. Like there's this and there's Chainsaw Man. And Chainsaw Man takes a lot after cinema, Japanese cinema, of course, but it takes a lot after American movies as well.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of East meets West right now between MHA and Chainsaw Man. It's honestly really cool and a unique experience that really fits the modern day.
And
just fits the modern day because we have international communities and stuff now watching anime. So like it just works.
Yeah, it's no coincidence either that, well, MHA is kind of dwindled down in terms of sales in America because like it doesn't release volumes as often anymore, and everybody's pretty much caught up on the backlog. But what's taken its place as a #1 seller is Chainsaw Man. That's largely because of the East meets West influence it has.
And reading Chainsaw Man in certain pages are genuinely set up like camera shots in like a movie that you watch in an American theater. Like one of my favorite like paneling situations from Fujimoto was the one where Asa's talking to the Justice Devil girl, and you just have like them sitting next to each other, and it's like
in the chairs.
Yeah. And it's
shot,
like
reverse shot.
I love that.
And it's like
great panel.
Yeah, I killed my neighbor for using welfare on gambling, and it's like, oh, you the ops. But
and then it just cuts to Asa sitting there like, what the fuck?
like, but you know, it's still like I can enjoy that kind of stuff. Like, so there's wins, and with My Hero, I think what you're gonna see is just like another boom once the full series box sets come out and all this other stuff. But it's also like every time there's an anime season, more people buy volumes every single time, and especially with this upcoming season, when that comes out, I like to look at My Hero chapters in 3 chapter stretches. And because like the way I look at it, every 2 to 3 chapters ends up being an episode of My Hero usually. Outside of when we have like those 9-page chapters, and even then those sometimes still become 3 chapters still into, you know, a single episode, like with Joint Training, which I still think it's hilarious that people thought Joint Training was only going to be 5 or 6 episodes. I'm sorry, but you were very wrong and mistaken.
How is that going to be 5 to 6 episodes? I don't know.
So and that's part of like the issue that I've said this for a long time, which is that My Hero season 5 had so much going against it, from corporate not necessarily liking NBA, especially because how they've tried to market the series for years, to the fans hyping up NBA extremely hard, to production switching the order of the series, to people purposely anti-hyping the joint training arc and basically telling people, oh, this is only going to take 5 episodes, 6 episodes, blah, 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 blah. Like, there's so much that went into like season 5's online presence of people like anti-hyping stuff that ended up taking longer, just giving horrible misinformation on their estimations and calculate, like horrible calculations. Like, to the extent where the craziest thing about season 5 for me is that I remember I like posted my prediction on like how the episodes would be executed. And I was like 1 episode off of the first 13, 14 episodes of the entire season 5. You better believe nobody wanted what I predicted for season 5 though.
It's a shame what happened to NBA, because like, yeah, it got switched around and they cut out quite a bit of stuff, especially at the start. But it's like, look, like Japan is not ready for that. And not ready for that smoke. Like, I mean, it was a controversial arc when it was going on, right? Like, it's just, so when you bring it into anime form and you're broadcasting it to families, primetime slot, that's the important thing. It's not late night like a lot of these other ones. Sorry, that was Siri. It's not late night like a lot of these other shows. Like, I believe JJK is a late night slot, right?
I think so. I don't know their times over there just because.
Well, anyway, later night slots are typically the more adult shows, and like, even though JJK is Shonen, I'd say it's targeted at an older demographic than MHA. But at the same time, yeah, like, I mean, maybe one day like you get a readaptation that does NBA properly, but I don't know. I think as is, like, I mean, I think the main comment about the show was that like, oh, there's too much school stuff. So I think you're probably gonna see very common opinions when this hits anime onlys, that seasons 6 through probably 8, way we're ending up.
I lean towards 8.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be eight seasons. The last one's gonna be 12 to 13 episodes. People are probably going to see season 6 through 8 as the best seasons of the show, because it's nonstop action.
And I'll also say that I don't think it's bad. I see. Okay, so I hold the very contentious opinion that season 2 is kind of overrated. Like, I don't understand why season 2 is considered like the best of MHA. And the reason why I've always felt that way though is because a lot of the same people who are like, MHA doesn't do enough stuff differently are like, season 2 is my favorite. And I'm like, so the season was basically a tournament, like where half the season of the tournament arc is your favorite, but you're mad at MHA? How does that work? How does that work, buddy?
I think it was when MHA was at its most popular, or at least it was still fresh and new. So like when I reread MHA, I see a lot of modern day Horikoshi in the start of MHA. Like, MHA's writing hasn't changed all that much necessarily. Horikoshi's just been able to delve deeper into it. So like I really don't see, like, I understand that, you know, people as they grow older, or as the series goes on, they might tire of it. Like, they see the writing on the wall, literally or figuratively. So I can understand that. But like, to me, like, MHA didn't change exactly. It just became more of what it's always been.
I think that's also reflected in like how Horikoshi shows certain things, because look, if early Horikoshi was doing all of this, I'm going to be honest, it would likely be a lot more on the nose with the dialogue and the narration and stuff. I've noticed Horikoshi, especially after after POW. POW is a great arc for him. It really made him focus on, I think, showing things visually instead of having to do it all through text. Just look at this chapter alone. Like, there's a fair amount of narration and dialogue, sure, but most of what is communicated is visual. Like when Deku throws Bakugo, and then you see the wind blow past him, and you see everybody's reactions, and it just builds and literally builds and converges on Bakugo, and then he swipes in and it gets All Might away from All for One.
Paneling. Oh my god.
Paneling. If that was early Horikoshi, that would have been intercut with a whole lot more text boxes, narration. This is this, this is this, this is this, this is this, even more so than usual. And then you would get your big double spread at the end.
The fucking triple sonic boom.
Yeah.
Like the paneling this chapter, like just the art itself is like just displaying. Like, and that's like a great way to show speed if the person understands like what that actually means. Because it's like, no, he broke the sound barrier like 3 times to grab All Might.
Like
That's
normally when
insane.
it comes to anime versus manga, I'm like, you know what? An anime typically can do more things. An anime has sound, music, and all of that. It's like MHA, you really want both of those in there because Horikoshi, the way he draws and communicates with his art and panels is so engaging. Just it's like missing out on that sucks. And there's no way the anime can capture it because it's a manga. You don't have paneling in an anime.
And the way that the speed of everything was conveyed, this chapter was actually really top notch because it's like you go from page 2 to 3 and you see like, and it's kind of picking up where it left off, right? Like we see all these like other perspectives, but this is all supposed to be happening concurrently, right? So it's like you see like All for One and his 8-year-old Joy with his new toy. And you see, we pick up that eye contact and you see that Deku's already turning. And the next page is like, oh no, Bakugo, like as dramatic as his stand-up is in the last chapter, what it's really telling you is that Bakugo stood up, saw All Might, looked at Deku, and immediately flew to Deku. And like even Shigaraki is confused by the rate, like the speed at which this is happening. And then boom, X catapult. Which the other thing that I like about this is that as much as those trending arcs are maligned, them having the ability to just have this synergy. This isn't like, oh, Goku and Vegeta have fought each other so much. No, like, yes, Deku and Bakugo have fought each other multiple times, but they've deliberately trained together and they worked together during the Endeavor Agency arc as a trio to try to make sure they could keep up with the #1 hero. So when they get this moment where it's like, boom, eye contact, immediately into the X catapult to Bakugo's, exploded full cowing into fucking going to save him. Awesome. Highlight the bond without making it, after years of knowing each other, Bakugo and Deku were able to understand each other with a mere glance. They knew, like,
oh no, not to the JJK narration.
Actually, I was going for Baki energy, but
no, because Gege leans way too hard into the narration. Like generally, like people
are we trashing Gege again?
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. No, no. I wanted to say what I wanted to say.
No, do mean to.
What I wanted to say before that was that, like, gosh, like it's also just not the fact that they've like obviously trained together a whole lot, right? Like, there's also just the narrative theme underneath it. It's like, you can't do this alone. It's like, I'll do what you can't, kind of thing. Like, that thing is all baked in underneath that. That's why I really like that dynamic. So it's like, yes, physically they know each other's abilities, but like, just they're also on the same wavelength in terms of what needs to be done as well. Like, it's just such a strong moment for them. So congratulations to Bakudex. and everyone else. We win together this time.
Yes,
this day we all win.
Okay, I think this is like a good last hurrah for Bongo Dongos.
Bongo Dongos.
No, I think I think everybody's happy with this. For me, I also find like, look, I see, like I said this on my Twitter, but like this, when people talk about like the deaths and whatnot, like I think they're also focusing too hard on like, they're not really focusing on what the objectives of the actual story are. They're thinking like, oh, this is how we have been taught it makes a good story. And why isn't it doing that? It's like, well, it still does a lot of that. It's just it's twisting certain things to be more leaning more towards the positive. And I think, like the message that like I think people have it in their minds that like, oh, All Might is the mentor character, he automatically has to die. It's like, well, the fact that everybody was having that expectation is pretty much why Horikoshi's not doing it. Because it's like that idea that the mentor character has to die because that's going to dictate their whole worth. It's a little messed up, I think. Like I know why people say it, but I just can't agree with it. I think it's a much stronger message for him to live. That like you can accomplish the impossible. Which is really what this type of shonen series is all about, right? Like go plus ultra, go beyond.
I think people have realized that My Hero, like, not everybody, trust me, not everybody, but I think as people came to realize that My Hero isn't some underdog story, because a lot of people still, there are some people who still are like, oh, like Deku was supposed to be an underdog, and then I was really happy that I didn't have to step in and say it, because a lot of times, like I see like either me or Volk or like a very like people who I know like or are mutuals with who like watch this channel and stuff like that are like almost the only people I see usually who do it. But I was like just on a random thread, I can't remember if it was Facebook or whatever, but somebody was like, well, My Hero stopped being an underdog series, or like from that perspective, like by the time Deku gets 5% full calorie, you're not supposed to see him as an underdog. And it's more about weight of legacy and dealing with expectations and rising up and overcoming like heavy burdens and stuff like that. And to a certain degree,
it transitions from being like, oh, the Naruto underdog story, which itself I think kind of Naruto was only ever an underdog because like he was treated like dirt. He's actually great ninja even without Kurama.
There's and I think that what also has to be like separated is like the difference between being a social underdog, like from a social system or like a social caste system perspective, and being like no, dude, like your power level's dog shit, you are socially not shit, like everything about you is some ain't shit. Like there's a difference between those two. And Naruto is like a social underdog. You could argue that Deku is a social underdog, but the thing with social underdogs is that there's usually something that can be done that change how you are valued socially outside of like a hard caste system. Like, and even then, if it's in a story, there's going to be a way to break the caste system.
Right. No, that's a really good comparison actually to Naruto. Like, because Naruto's core, at least for me, was Naruto's position in society and position with himself and dealing with also the loneliness that comes with it. And those are to me the strongest parts of Naruto, and why I have complicated feelings about how it progresses later. But like just generally speaking, that to me is the heart of Naruto and what I really liked about it.
I think it's easy to get caught up in that underdog thing just because the Chunin exams is like one of the most impactful arcs, and Rock Lee's battle with Gaara is so impactful, and the way that like Naruto like grabs, and decides to champion for not only Rock Lee, because like we always like people talk about like, oh, Rock Lee is like, but it's also the Hinata Hyuga fight that brings out that underdog thing a lot. You see Hinata and Lee get destroyed, and you're like, Naruto, yeah, fight for them, Naruto, like rise up for the little guy, like do that, and like make an oath in her blood, like not like, which also like I feel like once you start making oaths in people's bloods, it makes Naruto and Hinata's relationship more functional if you think about it. Like, dude made a blood oath in her name, but it's also like, bro, Kishimoto, you had him making blood oaths for her. Like, you might as well have just let them interact more early in the story at that point. Like, Did somebody tell her he did that? Like that?
Kishimoto is not good with the well, okay, he's great with certain sensitive subjects, but also not others.
So here's the thing, right? Is that Kishimoto did write Naruto the Last, and when he actually was dedicating himself to like, let me build their relationship some, I actually really enjoyed that movie.
That's honestly my favorite Naruto movie.
Like, it was actually enjoyable. And I was like, oh yeah, like this is really cute and sweet. I was glad that that movie existed, and I'm like, it maybe your editor should have let you do a little more with that.
And Aniki, what would you say the odds are we get to MHA the Last for MHA?
I don't think that we'll have to get exactly, because one, I personally like the way that Deku and Uraraka like have bounced off of each other, but in a way, I actually kind of, I'm not gonna lie, if I saw it, I'd be right there in theaters, like, ooh.
Okay, I don't think there's going to be an express need for it, because I think Horikoshi, like, whereas Kishimoto was just like, I mean, he kind of just threw the love story in there, and like that wasn't really his main responsibility. And then when it came a time, it's like, look, man, it kind of doesn't make sense to resolve this as it is. So why don't we dedicate a movie to it instead, and we use that as the bridge to our next series? And I know Boruto was kind of sprung on him, but I think as things existed, that panned out well enough. For MHA though, there's a lot of discussion about like, oh, how developed is Uchiha, is like should have had more, and it's like, look, you have to consider the audience for this kind of thing. And Horikoshi has said it himself. It's largely 5-year-old boys. And I know we as adults really love it too, and like we consume it and we're really into it, but overall, despite even with the fan servants and stuff, yada, it is still aimed at 5-year-old kids. And
He's
so
drawing a story to pass on, basically.
Yeah.
Like,
he's not really doing a romance focused story. So it's like, if we're looking at Izuocha as like, oh, through a purely romantic lens, it's like, well, yeah, they haven't had enough time to develop romantically, but their friendship is one of the most developed relationships in the entire series. And people don't really appreciate that because they never come into conflict with each other, but that's exactly why it's so tight.
Their romance is built upon mutual respect. And like, Deku saw a cute girl, was nice to me, had like a bit of a crush on her, was shy about it, but like that was never the focus for him. Partially, like you could argue partially because he's used to that not even kind of being an option. But the reality is that for both of these characters, they had a lot going on that they were trying to get through and work on or develop. And like the idea that Deku, and this kind of circles back to that bullying point I made last week about like Deku has had a lot of really important shit on his plate the entirety of the series. And if you think about it, around the sports festival is when we get the commentary, like the explanation of All for One and stuff like that. You get like a little more cutesy, shy stuff, like around when he's on the phone with Uraraka. But from then on, Deku's basically like, I need to get stronger, I need to get stronger, I need to get stronger, I have to fight the demon lord of the world and like overcome and make sure the apocalypse doesn't happen. Blah, blah, blah. Like that is his goal for the rest of the story. And it's reflected because like cute moments with his friends become less and less throughout the story. That's part of why Culture Festival, for those of us who really enjoy it, because Deku was not getting to be a kid for most of the series, actually. Like All Might say, hey, come have some tea. By the way, I gave you a pretty huge responsibility, not just my quirk. Yeah, turns out I didn't finish that dude off, and I'm pretty sure he's still around. So good luck with that. Here for you, bro.
If you haven't read the School Briefs volume that is set around the time of the Culture Festival, you absolutely have to, by the way. Like, if you
Oh,
liked the Culture
dude.
Festival generally,
All right,
that
pull up
School
the school
Briefs
briefs
volume
and
is
just sit down and read 'em.
wonderful.
Dude, you're reminding me. I need to go back and read some of those. Hell,
Yeah,
I
like,
finished the first one, but I have like the other five just like randomly scattered around my bookshelf.
yeah, in my view, I think the first one is probably the weakest, maybe because of it's just so early in the whole production line and you technically have less to work with. I think it was still good, I remember, but I just remember having a smile on my face all throughout. I forget which volume was. I think it was the fourth one. Gosh, I don't know. It's been a while. It's been a hot minute. But like, yeah, I know they definitely get progressively better. You'll have some hit or misses here or there, but like, gosh, the school briefs are such a joy for like if you've enjoyed anything about the Culture Fest at all, like the school brief volumes are great. Um, great experience. What was I gonna say?
Is
Oh,
that the fourth one is like you get the Romeo and Juliet like expansion where you
oh
get
my
more
gosh.
class
Okay,
1B as
I didn't
well.
know I would enjoy that as much as I did, but I did. The stupid class 1B play, all of that is in there, and I did not know I would enjoy that as much. Just
It's actually enjoyable, especially for
yeah.
people who want more of class 1B. Like these school briefs are where you should be going to. Because of
There's
course
an
it'd be great if we had it in the main manga, but it's nice to have it as a a side story.
yeah, there's also a whole Shinso chapter there too, and I just thought that was awesome. Like just the again, there are things where I'm like, please, in the main source, please do it. I know the author wants it to as well. Please, like he says as much. Oh my gosh. But what was I saying? Okay, yeah, no, with the Deku Uraraka thing, the thing with MHA is that it is centered around heroism. Like that is literally the point of the superhero manga. And that's why I really like their relationship, how it's grounded and how it's framed. It's framed on trying to become the best version of yourself, and they're bonding over that. Like it's not like it's funny to me when I hear certain shippers bring like what do they have, what shipping material do they have, and it's like an entire underlying ideology. like no, they're not just exchanging cute looks at each other or shy or whatever, like just the superficial stuff that I mean, gosh, if you want like an actual dedicated romance, you should read a romance, but I'm actually being a bit disingenuous because like coding is kind of the point to like for this, it's kind of the appeal, like piecing it together is kind of the appeal, so never mind that. But anyways, no, they're Deku and Uraraka, they're centered on heroism, and that's really strong for an actual like relationship like down the line. Like the foundation is really strong. Their talk before the war, perfect. Like that's the kind of stuff where it's like, yeah, they can work together because they get each other on a deeper level than just, cute boy, cute girl. Um, moments like that. So just the focus MHA has on heroism is really good. And when it goes back to Deku's character as well, whether like people like the underdog thing we were talking about, Deku Deku stops being an underdog when he receives one for all, to me, because that's when Deku flips and says, I am blessed. And he is. He like being able to have your entire trajectory change like that is the stuff of dreams, and he knows it. And that's what I like about Deku so much, is like he does not whine about himself beyond what we have seen already in chapter 1, because he knows everything has been given to him by All Might specifically. Like just so he doesn't have, he can relate to other people who aren't as blessed as he is. Like you see that obviously with his fight with Shinso, but like he recognizes how blessed he is, and he is no longer, he doesn't have the space to be a victim or to be insecure, for better or worse. Because I know people have some issues with Deku going into the third act, but I do think that it does come full circle when Uraraka tells Deku, a hero, that it's okay for him to be weak, whereas All Might, excuse me, whereas All Might at the beginning told him who was weak that he could be a hero. Like, it all loops together like that. So I think MHA is just really strongly put together around heroism. Like, it goes up and down through a whole lot of things, and that of course includes Deku's relationship with Uraraka, and of course his relationship with Bakugo.
So one of the things that I've always liked about MHA, and I remember back when like the provisional license exam had kind of ended, is that I liked about it is that it's always done a good job trying to focus on the humanity of the characters. And that's why and I think that's part of why I think one of Horikoshi's biggest like writing gripes that I think you're allowed to have, but it's a little weird, is that he will not sacrifice a character making in-character decisions, even if it might create a more exciting story, or a story that some people will like more. There's almost like a certain lot like personhood to his characters that he just will not neglect. Like All Might going out to the battlefield is something that most of us, and like a lot of people are like, well, there's just no reason for it. Like, even if he wants to protect All Might, it's like he's like, or Deku is like, he could have made the story decision to not have All Might go to the battlefield. All Might doesn't need to do, but it's like it would go so far against All Might as the hero he's been to not step up. And not only that, it would go against every like protective fiber that he's built towards his student for him to not go up. So it's like, not only does it violate his own ideology, his own practices that he's developed over the past 40 years as a hero, but it violates the relationship that he's cultivated with Deku. It violates the promises that he made with Deku's mom. It just goes against so much of who he is as a person that it just, you cannot justify sacrificing All Might's personhood in that moment for the narrative, or just to create a specific narrative. In the same way that Ida, the kid who was willing to like rip his own engines out and exhaust ports out, running across the country, melting through them, just so Shoto could get to that battlefield, is something that it makes complete sense, because Horikoshi has quietly built up Shoto and Ida's dynamic throughout the entire story, with them both having that like connecting viewpoint of how much they both do to carry on the name of their family. Shoto begrudgingly, like, you know, Ida with purpose, but like having that like weight of expectations both hovering over them, that idea that they need to match up to. So, and then, you know, the Stain arc where they're both like fighting on like because of familial issues, and like connecting with each other. We need like a joint training where people are like, Horikoshi goes out of his way in joint training to emphasize that Ida can read Shoto better than the other people in the class. Where like Ojiro is like, oh, I thought he was making the same face as usual. And it's like, Shoto's not a very expressive person, and yet Ida still understands what he's expressing. So for him to make not only that sacrifice, but that sacrifice for who's effectively his best friend, who he takes goofy ass photos with in the cutouts during Culture Festival, it's like, which, that, let's be real, that was probably Ida's idea, not Shoto's. It could have been Shoto's idea, but it was probably Ida's idea. And Shoto went along with it, but like building that up. So it's like, yeah, he's willing to melt away his exhaust ports and be completely useless if it means getting Shoto to that battlefield. Does that mean we get nothing else from Ida? Yeah, he's not fighting anybody for the rest of the story, basically. Does it mean Ida's moment is just helping someone? Yes. But Ida's directly stated, like, helping a lost child get to where he needs to go is what's so cool about a hero. So helping Shoto, like, from a family that's lost, like, he's helping Shoto save a lost child, and the fact that he's trying to help Shoto save Daki. He didn't ever need it to be the star. He just needed to make sure he was helping save people. And so it's like that mindset being reflected in their big moments as well. Like Shoji showing, like, letting his face be shown. Because this specific cause is worth it to him. And he's always tried to put his best foot forward and not, step on any toes or anything like that. So when you tie the moments to what people like, even Uraraka, if you think about her, like, the moment, it's about uplifting people, literally, physically, sure, with her quirk, but also the idea that she wanted to at least give Toga a chance to get out of that dark space that she was always in. Sure, Toga commits suicide by assisting Uraraka and making sure she gets to live, but it's the reality is that the moment is about what Ochako like to see. She always talks about she likes to see people smile, she likes to remove stress from people, and she likes to make sure that people don't feel bad. Even the whole reason she wanted to be a hero is to uplift her parents and remove the stress for them. Her initial plan was basically like, I'm going to get a hero license, and then I'm going to make sure that my parents get to save money on their construction company. She was barely interested in using her quirk license to fight people. So there's just all this stuff that like goes into these characters, that their decisions are always based around the core of who they are or their origins, as Horikoshi has made it a point to emphasize so many times throughout the story. So when we see Bakugo going to save All Might, we know that that's driven by guilt. We know that that's driven by the road that he's taken to get here. But we also, but when he finishes and says like, let's win this, that's still in character. He keeps people in character, and that's perfect. Like, and the idea of Bakugo, like, that's why when people say they, well, like, I don't know if I want Bakugo to get up and move after being injured, and it's like anything else is a disservice to his character.
Like, and honestly, like, this is the best of both worlds, because like when I was saying when he was, was revealed he's going to get revived, it's like, look, he's not going to fight, but he's going to do something else. Well, and I was speculating he was going to, do a Vegeta style beam attack, and maybe he still does that as a distraction shot, but he's not actively fighting anybody, but he's still doing exactly what he needs to do. Right? Like, he's accepted he does not need to fight to be the big hero. Like, he just saved All Might. That's a huge feat. Everybody's going to always remember him for that. And also, now that All For One is, well, seeing how young he is reverting now, he's probably going to be turning 5 years old next week. I'm wondering, are we going to get this ironic little moment between Shigaraki and All For One, where Shigaraki is the adult and he kind of extends a helping hand to Kid AFO?
Yes.
Before killing him, that's what you win.
Yeah.
Hey, Ponte.
Hey guys,
And you know what the perfect time for that to happen is?
tell me.
When Deku's exhausted from pulling out gear shift again.
Imagine
he's gonna
he's
get that space to breathe during that.
Imagine Deku's just like beating Shigaraki's form again. He's like, finally, we can end this. And then Shigaraki goes to AFO and is like, hey, I need your last quirk, bitch. Yoink! And kills AFO, and he's like recharged again. It would just be like, oh shit.
That's the thing. He can now use blood curl now. He stole the quirk of stain. But yeah, the thing about this chapter was really good. There is nothing else to say. Everything like you said, Aniki, about being in character, the fact that we still in My Hero Academia, Horikoshi always acknowledged that there's things that are beyond humans. You know what I mean? Like energy and stuff. Like there is. I'm not sure if there will be, if they acknowledge that there is a God there. You know what I mean? So about prayers and stuff, the fact that Horikoshi said to Night Eye that the power of Deku is to change the future because of his positive energy. The fact that he's always like looking up to save people, that he sees that he makes the possibility to save people because of this. Yeah, we just saw it today. What was the explanation to it? So yeah, I can't wait to see what's happening next. Bakugo for a real reason. Real man, I really loved the character till the end. And yeah, I, I just wanted to say this. Like, I will let you talk, guys, because I'm suffering right now. They took this week my for wise teeth. So I know, and I'm still in complications right now. So I still have my head like a pear. Looks like a pear right now. So yeah, I just wanted to say hello after reading that good chapter. Love y'all.
My gosh. Well, be well, Ponzu. It was great to hear from you.
Yeah.
Glad to have you back with it. Yeah. So actually,
Oh,
really good
we
time.
haven't even talked about the volume 39 cover.
Ah, yes.
That was
Oh
beautiful.
my goodness. So hold on. First, I just wanted to say I had to leave real quick to get food, but like I just wanted to say, like, I heard people praising Todoroki and Ida, and I just had to say, yep. That was good. That's good. I like that is the thing I wish this arc had more of was Ida. Like, he is still a great character. He had great moments this arc. I did want more of him because he actually did have he was a key member of the whole Stain arc as well. So just a little bit more on him talking about vengeance, maybe to his classmates, to Mina, stuff like that. I would have really liked. That said, I love that Ida got to repay his debt to Todoroki. That was and the ice jet was legendary. Like,
Actually, Seth, I was gonna say, I think something that would have fleshed out the Mina versus Gas Mask fight would have been a flashback to Ida talking about vengeance. I feel like that could have been
yes,
so great.
yes.
It would
Like,
have
he's
actually
someone who
fixed
could
that
help
fight
his
for a lot of
class through
people
that.
and
Yeah.
for what you want. Because I love Ida. Ida's one of my favorite characters. I want more of him. I love what we got from him at the last time we saw him, but I feel like we could have had a bit more in between.
Yes, definitely. Because yeah, no, he's the class rep, and the class just had a major one of their teachers is gone at the hands of a villain. So like, that kind of anger that they must all have. I think Ito would have been a great person to help them work through that about. Like, it could have it didn't have to be like a lot. Like, I don't need the plot to stop. It could have even been part of the flashback. But yes, I that is one of the things that I would have liked to see from Ida. But that said, like, the Todoroki focus was really good, and I am glad that other people are like, oh yeah, that is kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But I've been singing the praises of their bestie friendship forever.
It's a really good friendship. Like and they share with Deku too, because like they're really bonded as a trio during that whole ordeal. And when you see them in school, when Deku's not hanging out with Ochako, he's normally hanging out with
Those two.
with those.
Yeah.
Like back in the Shie Saikai arc, or
Like, I also think this
it's
is
okay
where,
to cry.
Yeah, I also think this is where, like, I think people have kind of mixed ideas of what Deku's friendships are like. It's like, normally he does not really hang out with, I think, the likes of Bakugo or even Kirishima. Like, he doesn't hang out with them. He hangs out normally with his own little clique of friends, the Deku squad, if you will.
Yeah. No, there are different quote unquote trios, etc. throughout MHA. Like, it's not just one main trio kind of thing. It's like, okay, Deku has a relationship with these people. He has a different relationship with those people, and so does Bakugo. So does Uraraka.
Ochako has, like, it's not really a trio. She has a duo ship with Suyu.
Yeah.
They're kind of partners.
I think this is what makes the Deku come back moment so more impactful, because what we see with Denki is like, yeah, we don't know each other that well, but I still care about you. It really puts into focus how Hori does a great job with portraying these characters as kids, as human. They're children. And just seeing this interaction between the two, it's very realistic. Like, in a high school, you're not going to have a massive friend group. Maybe some people, but it's very superficial.
It's a good look at how kids act without being overly cringe. And I don't think
Mhm.
people appreciate how tough that balancing act is. And when I hear people talk about, when I hear people trash Horikoshi's writing, I'm like, you're not really paying attention to the series' strengths. You're really focusing on like individual things, really, because like he's really good at this. I
Because when
think
I
it's
look at other series, like if I had to compare, a lot of them feel not like friendships, but like a shonen trope. Like I love the relationship between Yuji, Megumi, and Nobara, but it does come off as this is very shonen rather than how Hori handles it, where it is shonen to an extent, but it is
Dude,
very realistic.
the freaking I'm still mad at how he did that trio because like he kind of threw away one of the best elements of his series.
Starts so good. Like I just remember like really liking the way they think about each other in season 1.
They said they
Mhm.
were better than Team 7. Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Yep.
Oh no. Oh no, 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 no. Okay, look. Team 7 has problems, but in terms of like how they are all preteen kids at that time, the balance is really perfect.
Yeah, and how they all do come together at the end anyway, because they are friends. Like I did feel that. And I don't know, maybe you get it in JJK if Nobara is actually going to revive, like some people are speculating. But I don't know.
I think what my issue with JJK and that friend group as a whole is like I don't blame Gege because it's a shorter series, but we don't have enough time with them to get like the emotional like heartbreak
I
that he
don't think
tried to get us with
I
like
don't think he
Yuji's
really
reaction.
yeah, I don't think he even really wanted to do a school series that much because the school stuff is a joke. It's not there.
Yeah.
When was
It's
the
like
last time we saw them in a classroom just being taught like by Gojo while they're sitting down? Like not at all.
they explain it as like, well, Jujutsu sorcerers are rare. It's like, well, that makes sense, but it's like
Goodwill event.
correct
is
me if I'm
probably-
wrong. There's like 5 students at Tokyo Jujutsu.
There's
Maki,
Yuta, Panda, the salmon roll. What's his name?
Inumaki.
Yeah. Then you
6.
have the main trio.
So that's like
And-
7. Oh, and
Yeah.
Akari, but he's suspended.
Yeah.
Oh, true. I mean, yeah.
Okay. So that's under 10 students. That's not really a school. That's like some sort of it's like
That's an after school.
That's a club. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
let me
not the
think.
best use of a school
It's like-
setting.
It's like when you see a flyer on the street and you're like, oh, that looks really cool. I'm not a student, but I'll go here.
But yeah,
Like,
no,
yeah,
they,
it's a U club.
It's basically the Kyoto event, the Goodwill event,
Mm-hmm.
because, well, I guess technically, Gojo's flashback is the last time the school setting was really important. The rest of the way is whatever.
Did Gege say that? That
Which
he wanted JJK to be a college?
that also kind of cycles back to something about MHA that every now and then I see people be like, well, there should have been less students. And I'm like, what?
It's a school. Do you not know how a school works?
Because they're like, oh, the side characters don't get enough, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, so you're upset because a class of 20 isn't dividing its time almost evenly? And it's like, so you don't want a realistic school setting, but you also don't, because it's like the idea that, oh, like if it was really an elite school, then they could have done it like the way JJK did it. And it's like, no, that would have been terrible because, fun fact, even Harvard has classes of like 20, 30 people.
Mhm.
Like prestigious universities don't just magically have nobody there. Like their classes still end up being normal size. They just have less classes.
If anything, there's like, it's like there's literally only 2 classes per year, it seems, that we've seen at UA. And we kind of just put the second years in like a void of they
Yeah.
exist somewhere. Like already MHA has like a bloated cast. And even I am not the biggest fan of how the school setting is used. Like, I just think there are some areas that are fine but weak, kind of.
And
But like, it's still there. And
okay, if every class has 20 people, and I believe that the business course is capped out at class J, that means at total UA has 600 kids. Of those 600 kids, 120 of them are hero course students.
The best of the best.
They're like general studies kids who try to get into the hero course.
I mean, like, you compare this to something like Harry Potter. I'm going to tell you this right now. Like, this is where the world building Harry Potter falls apart, because like the class sizes at Hogwarts are simply not enough to keep a functioning society going.
Well, I would actually say that based off how like small they try to make it sound like the Wizarding World is, they're kind of huge.
It expands across the world. Like, we have multiple country, like Hogwarts-esque. Like, there's a Japanese one, there's a German one. Like, it's a big society. It's just like My Hero.
Look,
Just
I give
really
Harry
flaws and
Potter I give
bad.
Harry Potter some setting passes because it very much is a children's story, and a lot of what's in Harry Potter is meant to evoke a sense of wonder and stuff. Like, there's a lot in Harry Potter that's that plot wise, setting wise, it's not like it makes a lot of sense. In fact, magical creatures are so abundant. Like, how does a normal person not notice?
Yeah.
But like, there's a lot of wonderment in Harry Potter. So like, I give certain things a pass there. Like, there's whimsy that you're not supposed to take all that serious in Harry Potter, despite the darker tones it develops later. But
in MHA, like, the most of the heroes we see are like best of the best. Like, and there are other hero schools as well that have that still churn out heroes. They're just not as prestigious as UA. Like, we saw Ketsubutsu. There are probably a few others. I believe there's also hero courses you can undertake even without going to the school, but I don't know.
Wasn't that shown in Vigilantes with Koichi? What Koichi says?
Yeah, I believe it's this one hero who Six is paired up with when he's pretending to be a hero, and is like, oh, I didn't go to hero school, but I ended up undertaking a course, and I love my job. And
yeah, you just need to pass the licensing, I believe.
Yeah.
Is it so? Like, what I've noticed with a lot of people who criticize MHA's like cast and be like, "Oh, Class 1A is meant to be the main characters. Why is so many of them like underrated or undeveloped?" But I also feel like a lot of people also don't understand what the purpose of a side character is. I don't know. I also think it's funny that people still think that Class 1A is superior than Class 1B, or they're like, oh, but like
that's
like,
not true.
Dude,
yeah, it is. They're both the same. They're
Mushroom Girl can assassinate everyone in their sleep. Like,
dude,
no diff.
like, that point specifically, that tells me they do not actually read a lot of manga, because like, if you read like 5 manga, you will know that class designations are just either numbered or they're alphabetical.
And
you don't even have
regardless,
to
they
read
don't
that much
usually-
manga. Look in real life.
Yeah.
Captain Class, I'm sorry, but this vice captain is actually secretly Captain Class. Like, no, like the caste system or whatever, like, is very, very fungible for dramatic effect usually. But like, nah, that's it. I get it. Like, Horikoshi's characters and designs are incredibly strong, and I don't blame anyone wanting to see more of the side cast. I am side-eyeing certain bird right now, but yeah, like, I really don't blame people for feeling that way, but at the same time, it's like, yep, side characters are allowed to be side characters.
I think when things are stretched out and like you're getting one chapter a week at a time, people tend to really hyperfixate on like the people they really want to see, because you only get so much in such a long time span of time.
Yeah,
But
it's natural. to a
Like
point.
you gotta let the story be, man. Like, I mean, I saw some, like, you guys know I've been kind of critical of JJK lately, but you know, this week's JJK chapter, I actually really liked it because
It's so good. Like, let's just focus on him. Like, can we?
What you said makes perfect sense. Like, and I mean, if anything, the biggest thing people were upset about with Gege was the time skip that he took.
yeah, that was my real issue.
He like stepping back to set stuff up is what he needed to do. So I don't see a problem with, well, I guess it's more of a problem in that you're kind of like in the thick of. I mean, I don't even know if I'd call it the final arc right now at this point. Like, I don't know what Gege's doing. Gege doesn't follow enough of a structure for me to be like, yeah, totally. This is gonna be the last bit of JJK we got. No, I don't really know that.
Throws sorcerers at a problem, and then like half of them die.
Mhm.
That's
Like,
how
I don't
it-
expect JJK to have more than 1 or 2 chapters of epilogue, honestly. Like, just
Oh, dude. Like the anime recently got to the point where like Yuji met this girl who had a crush on him in like middle school.
mhm.
It's like that.
Yeah, it's like that.
It's like that.
It's a funny freaking chapter, but at the same time, I'm kind of put off, but like how it's just like it seems to be there, so we can zip forward to Yuji marrying that girl at the end.
Look,
I mean, it doesn't have to involve romance, but
I
it
think
would be
somebody
nice.
said that was because Gege's editors were like, you don't do enough, like with your like personal moments, and so he did that.
Do you think the editors went up to Gege and was like, okay, what about Nobara and Yuji romance? Nope. But it'll do sales. Nope.
Look,
Do you
I
want to
would-
make just a
I
random
respect it.
girl? Yeah,
Even
sure.
if hell freezes over and does the Lambanda, no.
I would prefer
You
that
don't
to how
understand. I
Nobara was
love
handled.
what the character Nobara is on paper, or not the literal paper Gege wrote, but like just the
Oh, that's I love that.
I'm sorry, but that is possibly the most scathing critique I've ever heard.
I
It was
think
on
that's
accident.
I think that's the
sorry.
best.
Look,
like,
look,
thing I've
the
heard.
favorite bit I saw of Nobara was like, oh, I'm this country girl coming to the city. I can't wait. And then like, I don't know, she becomes like that kind of interesting, like there's a social aspect that is not really delved into. Like, okay, how is it going to be like for you here in the city fighting these curses and like, just like I wanted to see. I really love the first ED where she's just swinging around shopping bags, living it up. Like I love that.
I love the ending.
Weird. It's not even weird. It's just I like seeing her character. Like that's such an interesting. Whenever you introduce like dynamics between country and city, that is already a very really interesting depth that you can have for your character.
Mhm.
But
I think-
as far as I'm aware, the country's just bigoted and the city's where it's at, and that bores me a lot.
I think we do have to be fair to Gege. It's like he has enjoyed abnormally fast success. Like he had a couple one shots that were very well received. He was put in Jump Giga, which is a quarterly publication. So that's like it was a full year of chapters before they decided to bring him over to Maine. And when he brings it to Maine, he crushes it. He creates a super popular series off the bat, super popular anime. It's becoming one of the best-selling series of all time and has more sales per volume than MHA has. I think
Once
even Hunter has. So it's like I think it's kind of caught him by surprise a little because I don't think he's really had time to develop as a writer yet.
Mhm.
Yeah, I feel like I don't want to be what's it? I don't like when I think about Horikoshi, how MHA, this is his first work that has gone this long. This is the first time Horikoshi gets to end a series on his own terms. And so like you see that throughout the story where he's trying to build up, like the overall arc is really long because Horikoshi is testing himself and training himself to write long arcs. And so like with Gege, it's like, well, most of JJK was not as popular as, the existing. It was when the anime hit that things just blew up astronomically.
Well, it was a pretty strong start, but not as strong a start as MHA, but it did surpass it once the anime came out.
Yeah. So like so in many ways it's like, and similarly with Isayama and Attack on Titan, like Attack on Titan is his first work and it shows, but like an author can't know going in how much of a hit something is going to be. And even if they do, it's like it could become popular for reasons that are kind of independent of what you and I would consider good writing. Like, I mean, and that is also true for MHA. People really like shipping a lot.
Oh boy, do they.
So so like, you know, things that we don't like are going to get popular, or things that we think could be better are still going to perform just fine. So like it's all kind of important to be a bit measured with these things. At the end of the day, it is just comics. So but it, you know, it can be fun to, you know, pick on things, I guess. Either way.
Like JJK.
But still, you know, this MHA chapter was just so good. Gosh, just this entire final arc has hit in a lot of feels, and for anyone who has been in it for the writing, you know, like from start to end, this just feels like such a good bookend. Like Horikoshi, like he makes a complete circle. Okay, I like the complete circle.
I just want to shout out the double page spread where you see everyone just praying, and like how Hori like formatted like the paneling. You can see like, especially when it like warps, like he really paid attention to how it would work if he had to draw it.
It's like Bakugo's passing through like some sort of tunnel of everybody's wishes.
Yeah,
Bakugo went into Speed Force.
Yeah.
the,
I
and
also
the
really
whole
love how
butterfly effect thing.
I also love how this all tied together with like there's been this imagery of the wind like going through, and I was like, okay, what is that? And I was like, that's everybody's wishes for the heroes to win. Like that's them praying. And I
Yeah.
found that a much more succinct and beautiful visual than it was during Overhaul, where it was just all my kind of where it was Night Eye on a bed, like kind of talking about the wishing energy.
Yeah, no,
I
that,
thought this was illustrated way better than it was then.
yeah, what I didn't initially like about that panel in the Overhaul arc is that Eri, the people who wanted to save Eri most were Deku and Mirio. Like, yes, everyone was there to save Eri, but what frustrated me about how Horikoshi handled the other characters in that arc is that no one else thought about Eri. Kirishima was having an existential crisis right when a little girl is being tortured for her blood. Like, dude, I don't care. I'm sorry. Like, get it together for her, please. Tamaki, same thing. His man crush on Mirio was more important to him in his arc than thinking about the little girl in trouble. Like that is stuff that I did not like about the Overhaul arc. And in general, like as individual characters, I appreciate the writing. It's just that like there wasn't enough focus on Eri on the side characters or on the supporting cast's part.
The strongest parts of that arc, I still really like Kirishima's parts for sure, but the strongest part of that arc is definitely Deku, because like
absolutely
it's start to finish, it's full on Deku. It's him having to really question is like, did All Might make the right choice? Is Night Eye right about me?
It's perfect for Deku, especially the moment between Deku and All Might where Deku swears that he'll help him change the future and stuff like that. Like all of that, his personal insecurity about being the successor, handling that there, excellent.
And like, it's all coming around full circle now too. So
it is. Like when I understand people's critiques of Act 3 Deku, but like you kind of have to understand that when the world goes to shit and everything else is in chaos, there's only so much you can be, but what about me? Like, just like when I remember when Mirio showed up to save Deku, at the moment he was insecure. And again, like, Horikoshi is really consistent about portraying Mirio as the ideal that Deku wants to aspire to be like. Like, that is the entire point of his insecurities during the overhaul arc. But like, when in Act 3, when the world is shit, what Deku doesn't have the luxury or time for any of that. He tells Mineta straight up, yeah, no, that whiny kid, or excuse me, that crying boy, he's not here anymore, because he can't afford to. Everyone else is in so much more pain, kind of thing. It's like, what do your insecurities mean when in the face of the problems around you, kind of thing? And there's a point to where that's not healthy, I get that, but like, it's also just mature to be able to compartmentalize your problems versus what is needed of you. And so that is in general, I appreciate how Deku is at least able to put his insecurities aside to do what needs to get done. So, and that was more my issue, and that's why I was actually and that goes back to what I was saying about Kirishima and Tamaki. It's like, guys, there's a girl in trouble here. Can you like, if it's okay to waver and stuff, like, that's normal, right? But like, what would have made it work for me is if the thought about Eri anchored their insecurities to rise up to the challenge.
Last week, but one of the things that I had said was like, trauma scaling can be bad, but it's kind of necessary when you like are trying to evaluate why certain things aren't being prioritized.
Yeah.
And in the case, like, and I was talking about how, like, yeah, sure, Bakugo bullying Deku was traumatic and it messed with him a lot for a lot of his life, but he ended up dealing with shit so large to such a scale that, like, that's not really worth thinking about right now. Like, it just isn't.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, oh, damn, the guy who bullied me is being nice to me now. Well, anyway, I gotta go fight Shigaraki, I guess. Like,
right.
There's
like,
just such a scale to these things
like,
that
it's
not.
just they won't let it be an action series. Is my thing.
Yeah.
I keep saying this. I'm like, you keep expecting these things where it's like talking about like, oh, well, why isn't Ijirocha doing this, and that? Why aren't we getting more of that? Because it's like, it's not a romance series. Why aren't we getting more pure Deku introspection? It's like, well, we already got a whole lot of that at the beginning already. I don't necessarily think we have to go over it all over again. It's like there are bigger things going on. What else? Oh. And then when we do take the breaks with the school arcs, people were complaining about those too because they just wanted to get back to the action. It's like,
can't win.
You can't win. You want constant movement because the story isn't complete like you want it to be yet. That's the pitfall with manga. Like, you have to wait.
You're putting up
wait for the full picture.
I think it's fine to be disappointed with how the story has panned out. If you want this for these characters, if you want Bakugo to like have this conclusion, or Deku to act this way or have this conclusion, you can do that. It's free country. But at the same time, you should sit down and think what, because like Aniki, I remember you said something along the lines of no one considers like the opposite. Like, how could this be beneficial?
Yeah.
Right.
No.
What I can't remember what exactly you said.
Basically, what happens is a lot of people decide on a pure gut check moment, they're a little, I don't like this. And then they never stop and go like, what could be good about this? And so, like, for example, when Bakugo was supposed to be dead, I tried to consider what could be good about it. Like, everybody who like remembers that stream when he got injured, I was like,
yep,
I guess we'll see. But I wasn't really sold on it. And I like what we got instead so much more. Just like I was very fine with All Might dying. But I'm also happy with this moment. Because if All Might wasn't going to die, and thank you, I wanted something, thank you, as good as an All Might death to take its place. Bakugo getting to, in his mind, atone, because one of the things that is a driving factor for Bakugo throughout a lot of the series is guilt, specifically guilt over how he treated Deku, guilt over the All Might not getting to be a hero anymore. Guilt is important to Bakugo's character. So to see him kind of come to a place where he's like, okay, I can do this, or I'm like, doing the right thing and atoning is actually really good and important for his character to have. And it's like when people see Bakugo's apology and they decide it's bad because he hasn't had that conversation with, or Deku didn't react enough to it. I think that the idea of Deku having his reaction in the middle of a battlefield, regardless of the fact that there wasn't an immediate villain threat, is silly. I think that's to be a very silly location for that conversation to take place. And from then on, there's just many more important conversations that he could be having or doing. And you could have the conversation happen at Troy, but at that point, it's like removed from that chapter. So that conversation and that acknowledgement about like their stance on their relationship with each other, since I hate having to say, that deserves its own space, and I would argue its own even potential chapter, or at least like a good dedicated subsection of a chapter to it.
I mean, I can see us getting a lot of Deku's thoughts very soon as he fights Shigaraki with Bakugo in the background. I've always thought, what, most of shonen beats are gonna happen during climaxes like this, and of course probably as epilogue stuff too. I think there's reason to be somewhat hopeful about a decent length epilogue for the manga. Maybe not too long, but enough. So yeah, no, I agree that we are due for some of this, for some thoughts from Deku himself, but it's going to be delivered in the time. For better or worse, Horikoshi structures his fights so that you have everything you need kind of in the setting of the fight itself. So there are parts where I don't think work so well, like with Shoji, where it's like, you know what, you really could have just set up more of this beforehand. But then there are parts of it that are actually that hit really strong, like Uraraka and Toga. So it's that's a to taste thing, I suppose, but Horikoshi is good at it, so I would give him some more leeway than the fans tend to give him.
I just don't get the doom posting where people are reacting to this section of the story where we're like nearing the end of MHA and they're still thinking, he's going to fumble Deku's character. He's going to fumble Bakugo, Shigaraki. And I feel like it just comes down to...
I'm so fucking sick of those assholes. I'm just
it's like
and when you call them out on like criticizing them, they just fucking insult you. It's what the crazy thing, and they don't see anything wrong with that. I'm just so fed up with like the same bullshit week after week. It's like, fucking Christ, move on. Like nobody wants to hear your whining. I'm sorry your favorite manga didn't pan out how you wanted. Boo fucking who.
I think what also made me think about this was there was this TikTok video that like sprung out, and I liked the creator, and I really liked them. They have a great amount of points a lot of time, but it was about Deku and Bakugo's relationship and how it has been like people have been like putting this up on a pedestal and been saying, oh, this is proof that the relationship is shit and it's one-sided and Hori's going to like not stick the landing. And it's like, we're not at the climax of the relationship yet. Just because Deku didn't have that talk with Bakugo that you want doesn't mean we're not going to get something similar to that. If not ever get it. I just like at this point, it's fine to be impatient, but stop taking your frustration out on people who either like it, people who are like, oh, just wait, or Hori himself in the series by proxy.
Yeah, it's just
It is annoying. I think though that MHA is a series of becoming. So this is these characters' backstories, I think, is sort of how to look at it, which is kind of I suppose a unique super, like all of MHA is dedicated basically to its individuals' characters' backstories. So what we're seeing unfolding right now is in many ways what would be a prologue for a more traditional superhero story. So I understand that some things taking so long to develop is frustrating to people. However, that's sort of just the type of story we're dealing with. It's a story of becoming. So and like you said, the Bakugo stuff, it's gonna happen. Like it's just not gonna happen in your time is the thing. So
also Terrence sent out a super chat. MHA is very similar to other shonen, but they decide to hate on it, so they nitpick things they wouldn't in Naruto, One Piece, JJK, etc.
Naruto would not survive the treatment MHA gets today. I'm sorry.
It will get torn. I mean, look at
most series
Boruto.
So
most series wouldn't.
Naruto's war arc in today's like anime.
They ripped a new asshole.
Oh my gosh. No,
I stand
don't.
by.
I love Naruto too much to get into what I think of Shippuden. Oh no.
I stand by. MHA suffers greatly from one, because people are like, MHA is the new gen. It's like the current generation is what people really mean. Like a lot of people say, like new gen is a term that's younger people have started using it, but it used to be a term that could kind of date who you were talking to. Like if somebody's referring to like My Hero, Black Clover, all this other stuff as new generation stuff, what they really mean is I grew up in the Big Three era, or I grew up before the Big
Post
Three.
the Big Three era.
This is what most people say when they mean new gen is post Big Three era, and like especially if you're talking about Shonen, you have to look at the current generation as like the My Hero, Black Clover, Attack on Titan started during the Big Three era, so it's not. It is a Big Three Shonen era manga or series, even if it runs later. Just like One Piece is a Big Three era shonen, it just runs later, or just ran into the next generation. But
we need a new term for whatever Mama Yu and Kagurabachi are going to end up being. I'm sorry, I can't hear new gen again.
No, in fact, like if you ask me, it would be as bad as like people like to be like, oh, like Golden Age, Silver Age. You could switch out the Big Three era for like Modern Age, Postmodern would be what we're in now, and then slap something else on later if you want to. But this is kind of, to me, we're like the postmodern, and mostly because it's like postmodern because we're at that point where we're trying to like deconstruct some of the classic shonen tropes. Like, for example, we have the demon within trope really kind of being turned on its head with JJK, right? Like the demon within is usually like whether it's white who ends up not actually being a demon but a part of Ichigo's powers, whether it's Kurama, if you want to look at fucking even Yusuke had like a bit of a demon within him. So like those are all exceptions of powers, whereas with JJK we purposely like
it's a literal demon.
It's like, yeah, it's basically like a literal demon.
He has his own character and everything.
Own character, has no desire to actually help Yuji, fucking pieces out and hops into his buddy's body, leaving him like with nothing. Like complete subversion. My Hero mentors are damn near bulletproof outside of their limbs and major injuries, but also it manages to be like a hopeful series that like quickly it consciously throws away the idea of the underdog and it becomes more about legacy. And whereas like a lot of series, the legacy is revealed later, you're getting the legacy up front that they're trying to live up to and all this other stuff. So this is like a really huge deconstructionist era for like even the way that rivalries and the friendships are handled in this current era are way different. Like even if you start off with a contentious relationship, it will build towards a legitimate friendship. Like look at like Goku and Vegeta, where it's like I guess you could argue they're friends, but like Vegeta's always like fuck you, Kakarot, carrot cake.
They're like
real quick.
colleagues from work. Also, Joseph sent a super
Yes.
chat.
Joseph coming through on the super chat said, "Computer's acting up, so I don't think I'll be able to get on today. Sadly, I'm glad All Might was talking because I would have been especially obnoxious if Bakugo ended up doing Stacy him." Ooh,
That joke made me hit the floor.
Oh no.
You know who didn't hit the floor?
Hmm?
Gwen Stacy.
Ah,
Okay,
Damn.
maybe we can
Snap.
maybe that sounds like some spicy fan fiction, but yeah, no.
But like you call it postmodern, deconstructionist era, whatever you want to call it.
The I hate it era.
Because most of the stuff that like the series that are like getting big are like way different than what we like with those of us who grew up watching Big Three, you know, in middle school, elementary school, like as like similar as they are for the sake of like being action series and the Shonen Jump magazine, they're still pretty different than what we grew up with. Even like the like MCs aren't quite the same level of MC that they used to be either in this era, right? Like
MCs are not like there was a time where MCs needed to be plastered in damn near every freaking chapter. And One Piece is still kind of like that. But things are largely different now where you can cut away from Deku for like 10 to 20 chapters pretty easily. You can cut away from Yuji for hell, he did it for even longer, actually. Like you can do this.
I mean, Yuji came back holding wine. It was like he was chilling.
Yeah.
I also love how protagonists now are like there's no longer an emphasis or like a focus on the I want to be the king of the pirates, like simple personality. Like a lot of these protagonists are willing to show their emotions. They're willing to have more. Not to say that protagonists, you know, in that era didn't have like some type of depth to them, but I feel like we're edging closer to more interesting protagonists in Shonen Jump.
Well, a lot of those
weekly Shonen Jump.
A lot of those goals were kind of for like personal glory or some kind of personal dream, you know. Whereas, you know, you look at even Deku, like, yes, he wants to be the greatest hero, just like All Might, but not because like, oh, I want to satisfy my own desire to be a hero. There's a little bit of that.
But I would argue there's a lot of that, but like there is a balance. Like it's thoroughly explored. What does that mean to be?
Yeah, it's more altruism.
But I also mean
for the sake of others.
But I also want to say that like a lot of the series that have those types of goals aren't getting anywhere the same way because like there has to be more meat to what your goal is in order to get further.
Yeah, like you know, that's the thing. Like with Naruto and One Piece, like what does it mean to be Hokage? What does it mean to be the king of the pirates? And those are things. I mean, I know Oda is getting to it, with the King of the Pirates stuff with Luffy, if I remember correctly. But you know, it's not really like. It still feels rather loosely defined. It still feels rather dreamlike. It's more like a position rather than like an actual. Like what its place in the world is kind of thing.
It's more symbolic what it means, and it's probably gonna link up with what Joy Boy really is. So
yeah,
like also yeah, like I'm reading Air Gear, and that is also very much part of the era because like Icky, I mean he is heroic, but also he kind of doesn't care about the larger scale stuff. Like he really just wants to reach the top of the sky so he can have true freedom. That's kind of the whole hallmark of your Shonen series. Whereas now, like even reading like Mama Yu, the whole hook behind that is not that like the protagonist has any real special goals. It's that he's like he happens to be like the designated hero, but he's a complete average Joe.
It's how is he gonna cope with that
Yeah, like
kind of thing?
because of the way his world is set up. And I really encourage you guys go read that because it looks like it's actually going to stay a while.
Mhm.
It's very popular in Japan right now.
I hope so.
It's getting a color
Was there
page.
good like sales numbers or something for it, or viewership numbers, or
Oh, it hasn't had a volume out yet.
yeah?
But, it's getting a color page next week, I think.
Wait, Volk. Alves asked, "How's the Barack Omaha arc going?"
Oh my gosh, I saw that on your Twitter, and I'm like,
Yeah, I saw that too.
there are some manga where it's like, you know what? I think I enjoy it more reading it vicariously than whatever the context is.
Okay, dude.
Yes, I want to hear about this because I was going to ask about it too.
Okay, so I accidentally cracked my iPad, so I've been a little depressed, so I haven't been reading as much lately. But where I left off was like they were in the middle of fighting a bunch of dorks who had their personalities imprinted off of Fantasy 7, fighting on fighter jets.
That's the fight I was waiting for you to get to because I was like, wait, see if you remember.
Fighting on fighter jets. Meanwhile, Barack Obama in a teenage Japanese girl's body has gone off with his military to like go stop this other guy who has kidnapped an aircraft carrier because he plans to steal a magical set of roller skates that will control the world's technology.
What?
Yeah,
it makes so much sense when you're actually reading it.
That's actually insane.
I don't actually.
I don't like
care.
that. I kind of want to read it just to get
I
the
do not.
context.
dude,
This is better.
You gotta read it. It's fucking crazy. It's like look, it's not the most insane manga I've ever read, but it is a specific level of unhinged I don't think I've ever come across, and it is so much fun.
Like I was waiting for you to get to the Fantasia Fortune disc download of their personalities. I was like, oh my god.
Oh my god, dude, when like Loki was doing like the freaking he was holding a sword, I'm like, oh, that's like Cloud from episode 7. I was like, okay. And then I kept reading and I was like, he's actually based off him.
It's like, oh, he's really based off.
Oh my god.
No, that plane battle was nuts. And
dude, it's one of the most creative setups for a fight I've seen in a long time.
The way, because like, okay, so what made me really love that is that there's like the class battles. So like, all right, look, you got like F class dash, E class hurdles, where it's like just a straight line race. Okay, we're gonna get more complex where you might have like more complicated routes that you have to take on or whatever, and then that'll rank you up. D class, just straight up you and a dude in a cube having a roller derby match. All right, cool. C class sky battles. And like when you get one earlier, there's like these poles or whatever that they're all standing on. And it's like, okay, like you're standing on like these limited spaces and people are trying to knock each other off, whatever. And then you get like, I can't remember what B class is, but I know A class was the balloon battles. Mm-hmm. Oh, B class was disc.
Yes.
A class is like these balloon battles. So B class is like ultimate frisbee, roller derby. And then A class is like you literally have to go like catch this balloon, but only one person can touch it. And then there's one person who has like the ability to actually hit people. One person's supposed to be like a decoy and all these other roles that you're playing. Really cool stuff. But you get to like towards where like Volk is, which is like one of the like last big fight, like one of the last bigger fights towards the end of the series. And it's like C class sky battle. We're fighting on planes, and each one of these planes has a different amount of fuel. And as each plane starts to run out, you're gonna have to hop from the top of this plane onto another plane that's mid-flight, and all this other stuff. If you lose your parachute, you're basically quitting, like GG. So it's all this other crazy shit going on. It's like, oh, so these are like the real C-class sky battles. That other one was like,
yeah.
So it's like the beauty of shonen escalation combined with like even the environments that they're doing all this stuff in is escalates, and it's just so fun.
And it's gorgeous too. Like it's gorgeous to look at. He's one of the best artists in the industry.
Like it great art. I still occasionally like pull up the Grand Fang Firebird, just because it's something that I was like, oh man, that was a really cool attack. Like there's some really cool concepts in there that, like, that was one of those technologies when I was a kid where I was like, man, I want to learn how to make these. Like,
That they have actually made motorized roller skates now. So
now let's get the regalia. Come on, military, get to it. I want to wear rollerblades and kick a shockwave with my feet that cuts people in half.
Fang regalia. Man. And what blows my mind is that he was also doing that while he was drawing Tenjo Tenge. Like he was doing a monthly series and then he was doing weekly. I was like, I cannot imagine what that workload is like. That must be intense.
Tenjo Tenge is not as unhinged, but still pretty unhinged.
Yeah. I have that queued up for reading at some point. I think I'm going to go back to JoJo next and then Akane Banashi. But no, I want to read more of his work because I read some of his Bakemonogatari manga and like that's Nisio Isin writing mostly. He just adapts it.
Yeah.
But like that was where I first really encountered him, and his art there is also is also excellent without having to be said.
Hi, Nafisa.
Hey, that's appreciated, Nafisa. I'm just glad you took the time to stop by today.
You know what? Maybe I'm gonna. Yep, you guys should read Air Gear. I'm seeing the chat now. They're just reacting to like how freaking insane.
No, like I
Oh
think
my
everybody should
gosh.
read Air Gear. I think that like it's it's basically like everything you can enjoy about an action series, but then some of it is just cranked up to 11. And it's got some of the most like it actually does have some plots that are like genuine gut punches where you're just like, did he really fucking do that? Why did he do that? You are the worst. Like you know, Volk and I talk about the villain of that series is like the
He's
fucking
great.
worst.
He's
Like
great.
in the best way. Like he's the worst.
What if I said he was better than Aizen?
I actually can't argue with that. I like, yeah, no, like actually a better twist than Aizen, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that character so much. Like he's such a perfect foil for Ikki. Like, and I'm really excited to see how that resolves because I have 10 volumes left, I think, which I'm looking forward to.
I also love that Ikki never really stops being a punk.
Oh, dude, he's a dipshit the whole time. He's fucking hilarious.
Like from the unbeatable baby face to the Sky King. Nah, bro. If you Cameron Bailey, I promise you go read this, you're gonna be like, nah, this is bigger than Aizen. Like
Yeah.
what?
No
Ikki-
one is better than Aizen. I mean,
Ikki is pure chaotic neutral at all times. Is pure chaotic neutral.
Like, it's some good shit, man.
I do
I
like
don't know. I don't know if Cameron's being a bit trolly right now.
I mean, Aizen is actually a really good twist, good villain. Like I reread Bleach last year. You guys know, like last November, I reread all of it, and was great. Loved it. You know, I was posting all the stuff talking about how like, damn, it's crazy that like how much stuff is actually foreshadowed if you just pay attention. And a small detail that I liked in the anime for 1,000-Year Blood War was when Ichigo broke through the barrier. They actually did the hollow mask for the explosion again, and I was like, all right, like that. So yeah, which
I just think when it comes to Aizen, right? Aizen's my dough. I respect that, but I feel like Ulquiorra is a much better antagonist.
Oh, I like Ulquiorra more. Like Ulquiorra was my favorite Espada. I feel like
Me too.
Aizen was a good twist, but as an antagonist, he ends up foiling Kisuke more than he ends up foiling Ichigo.
He even says is like, you don't really hold any real personal ill will towards me, do you? Like that's why you can't really fight to your fullest.
Yeah.
He pisses off literally everybody except Ichigo. So you know, I think Kubo was originally going to end at the Aaron Carr arc, but like he was convinced to keep going, and that was how he. I keep calling him Yawak because it's easier, but apparently that's not how
Yuha Bah.
Yababak, whatever the fucker's name is. I actually think he is a overall better villain than Aizen personally.
No, I like. No, I'm actually a big Yuha fan.
Yeah.
I prefer Yuha's like how he interacts with the Sternritters more than how Aizen interacts with the
Oh,
Espada.
definitely.
Like I enjoy because we got it animated, but how the Sternritters like reacted to like what happened in last episode, it was really, really interesting.
So yeah, no, I'm much bigger fan of the like the way Yuha interacts with so many characters and just his presence. Because like when people talk about like on-screen presence, like Yuha has like great presence, especially when you're like reading it. Because as much as people don't like that Kubo neglects backgrounds or doesn't like emphasize the backdrops as much, there are plenty of times where like you get these just like ominous shots of him just like sitting there in the chair and he's like, and there's just like a certain satisfaction to the way that like he postures himself. And it's kind of like, you know how like often one acts like he's always in control or like, he talks. When Yuha is like trying to exude that kind of energy, you actually feel it. Like you actually feel like Yuha is in control, and you don't feel like, oh, Yuha's just like blowing smoke up his own asshole.
He's literally the son of God.
Like
what I think like Kubo does well, and I think what makes me enjoy how well like manga as a whole, like in black and white, I think Kubo does it the best. And especially with Ichibe or like Yuha, like the panels with Yuha just stand out even more than any antagonist in the series. Like he's such a stunning villain when you're reading Thousand Year Blood War. It's sick.
And as convenient as the power is, I really do enjoy the Almighty. Like, especially during like one of the big conflicts where he's like, you've changed the future many times, like keep hopping between grain of sand and the hourglass of hope. And it's like, man, which just Yuha's that dude, man. Yuha is that dude. Like and I think it just comes down to like people don't post about like Thousand Year Blood War anymore, like the anime, but that's whatever to me. Like I've been like catching up on the season 2 or the part 2 episodes and loving them.
Thank God Hype Beast Twitter moved on to like JJK because like so freaking sick of like all the comparisons, all the discussion. It's like I just want to enjoy something for what it is without having to when I go on Twitter to see any of that.
Yeah, no, this is where
measuring.
I really start to dislike things like deconstruction. Deconstruction can be interesting when you're looking for insight as to why something might be the way it is, but like it's not useful when you're trying to build a story and build an. It's useful for when you want to bend the narrative in a way that you want it to be, kind of like it, but it's not useful for actually like building things.
I've seen people argue JJK deconstructs a lot of stuff and like, oh well, that's therefore why it's really good. I'm like,
no, that's you deconstructing stuff and
yeah,
fitting it like literally. Like, I mean, yes, stories themselves can deconstruct tropes and explore tropes and all that. I mean, MHA does that, quite frankly.
and then
I just mean like,
and then when JJK does like the same shonen stuff that that like makes the medium what it is, people kind of backtrack and make it seem like it's doing something different. And they also do this with Chainsaw Man.
this like with Fujimoto isn't giving fan service.
Yeah,
it's not fan service. She's just fully naked and you're just immature. Like, okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's ridiculous.
It was so cringe. I remember when fucking Asa converts her school uniform into a sword and people were like, this is man. And I'm like, Okay. Sure, buddy. Sure.
I think some authors are just like untouchable critical darlings. And it's like if you criticize them, you will get the
What's
horde.
over?
Yeah.
It's really hard to talk about like some issues with Chainsaw Man in particular without bumping into. But it's on purpose. Fujimoto it's such a great
Dude, the
like
freaking
the
like the
dick
freaking lady
riding.
who's like 6 years older than Denji or whatever, who's like molesting him or whatever, and like
Oh, you don't understand the complexity of the scene. Like, shut up. Like it's not it's fine to analyze and see the hidden meaning behind scenes, but stop. It's sometimes it's okay to stop.
Fujimoto has a degradation kink.
He does. He
Yeah.
even admitted that
Like-
in like an interview. He was like, "Yeah, a girl pushed me over, and I like this."
And that's the thing too, is that a lot of people want to like pivot and not internalize that, like, and this is why I say death of the artist is so dangerous, or death of the author, because Fujimoto likes women who disrespect him,
Mm-hmm.
which means that, like, yes, he is in fact like shaping some of the character dynamics between Denji and women who are harsher to him based off his fetishes. And you have to accept that.
I mean, he did say that like if it was up to him, every female character in his manga would be like at a higher power, which explains why we have the horsemen.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like Makima, undoubtedly portrayed as evil, like absolutely terrible person, does not care about Denji. Fujimoto still found a way to make it that Nayuta was actually, in a way, her and Denji having a kid together.
Yep.
Yeah, basically.
What do you really think about that? It's just so it's such a level of crazy. Like
Not
Yeah.
only that, it's really like it's fascinating how Fujimoto took that, right? And was like, okay, we have Denji's like love for Makima, which like comes from his lack of a mother figure. And then like you take that, his lust for Makima, and you get Nayuta, and it's just a brother and sister dynamic. And I find that really fascinating.
Yeah.
I want to know what goes through Fujimoto's mind. Not to say it's a bad decision. I just
he role plays as
a child, yeah, right?
as a third grade elementary school girl.
Man,
who
him and
is also a
Elon
senior.
Musk will get along well.
Yeah, it's. I'm just saying that, like, if Horikoshi did that, if Tabata did that, hell, even like Kishimoto or whatever, they would be destroyed.
Oh yeah.
Torn
and
to shreds.
so the thing is that what I will say is that a lot of Fujimoto fans, especially if you read Fire Punch,
Mhm.
you know that motherfucker crazy. Like, so here's the thing: is that there's a tag in my Discord server that says like reading group or something like that.
Yeah.
But back in the day when I was still working second shift, on Mondays, I would get home at like midnight, and then I would like hop in the Discord, and me and the boys, and by me and the boys, I mean me and like a bunch of boys, and then Anna and Nafisa would read Fire Punch together. We do group readings.
Mhm.
I think we made it to like chapter 37. But and like then I was just like busier and busier with life. But so it wasn't like we just like decided to drop Fire Punch. It's just we just ended up like falling off. That series within like the first 6 to 7 chapters had like multiple forms of sexual assault. There was a part where, so like in the first chapter, a brother and sister are like, when we grow up, we can get married. And he's like, okay. And then there's a part where like basically people are like, yeah, let's kidnap that girl so we can use her. But then there's also like a part where this kid they like end up somewhere and people think this kid's a girl, but he's actually a boy or whatever. And they're like, okay, we're not going to be sexually assaulted. And then it's like, I want you to fuck this dog. Like, and all of that is within like the first 7 to 10 chapters.
I'm glad I never read Fire Punch. I read 1 chapter. Exile it.
Like, it was wild how much shit was like just happening in that series. Like,
Chainsaw Man would be very interesting if Fujimoto took what he did with Fire Punch for what you're telling me and like just threw it into the main series. Like that attitude.
It's pure grindhouse. Like it's meant to be schlock.
and I have to also clarify that in the first chapter, the main character is revealed that his power is regeneration. So if you look at Fire Punch, you'll see that the main character is on fire on the cover. And you'll be like, oh, like his power is fire. No, his power is regeneration. So what happened is that there's currently an ice age, and in his village, so that people could survive, he would chop off his limbs and feed them to the villagers so that they had meat. And some people wouldn't eat the meat from the kids because they just didn't feel comfortable. So he's like 10 years old, chopping off his arm and shit, and that's how people survive. They eat his fucking flesh. So what happens is like this group rolls by on a train and like kind of does like a raid or whatever, finds out that the village is eating human and just burns everything to the ground. Except the thing is that this guy's power is that he lights things on fire and they don't go out until they die. So it's basically a permanent battle of his regeneration versus this dude who lit him on fire 5 years ago, by the time you see like the MC looking how he does now. So he actually spent like 3 years laying on the ground on fire while going through puberty, not doing anything, just burning and suffering and burning and suffering and healing and burning. And like the fire managed to kill his sister, but he was just stuck on fire, where he was like, eventually he was able to stand up and walk. And he basically was like, I'm going to find the person who lit me on fire and kill him so that I can stop being on fire. I'm pretty sure he manages to successfully kill the guy that lit him on fire. And it turns out that that doesn't stop him from being on fire. So like, Fujimoto, like the amount of suffering and just straight up like gore or like absurdity from Fire Punch, when you read Chainsaw Man, it just isn't even close. Which, for as weird and as like fucking traumatic Chainsaw Man can get for his main cast, says a lot.
He toned himself down.
Like,
he nerfed himself. He was like, you know what? The world ain't ready for more craziness.
oh, the Darkest Cool crowd loves Fire Punch. And I do enjoy Fire Punch, but it's like, bro, this is a lot. Like, and then there's like this crazy ass character who's very similar to Makima that he ends up meeting that like follows him around because he wants to, or she wants to make a movie about the main character's life, because him being on like fire all the time and suffering but trying to do everything anyway. And it's like creating a documentary to posit him as like this, basically as a god and all kinds of, it's wild. It's wild. Because there's no more movies or shit like that because they've been in an ice age for like fucking 80, 100 years or something. I don't know. Just a lot of stuff happens. It's all a crazy trip. Maybe I'll read some more Fire Punch today. I don't know. Kind of want to. Maybe I'll. We'll see. But yeah. On less weird, I'm gonna circle back to the My Hero chapter real quick. because one of the details that I found interesting this chapter, and I don't know if you guys noticed it, but we still haven't actually seen Bakugo's chest, I don't think.
No.
No, we haven't.
Let me look at that last page again.
No, because he holds Toshinori against into his chest.
And
So you
his
don't
back is to
see-
the
Yeah.
Is there like just are we gonna see like Headshot's face popping out of that hole or
Or like a little strand.
No, wait, hold on. Okay, in seriousness though, if Bakugo comes at All for One with any kind of like blood spewing from his chest to trigger an All for One flashback to All Might, I will lose it. That'd be so cool.
So the vestige All for One got traumatized, and now it's the actual All for One who's going to get traumatized again.
Yeah, no, I need him to suffer a traumatic death.
his vestige got his ass beat by Deku, and then Shigaraki came in and finished the job.
Also, it might be healing, but with the way Bakugo damaged his arms by just straight up exploding them off, is it possible that we get something similar to like with the Nomus, that if you just like cauterize the shit, it just doesn't heal?
Do you mean he like next chapter he looks at his arms like, why are they healing?
Yeah,
I mean, it's possible.
because it would kind of amuse me the idea of Baby for one standing there like, like
Where's my arms?
I think they are gonna regenerate just because of like how the power works. But I think it's gonna cost him even more years. Like I said this before. I think he's gonna be zipping straight to like 5 years old. He's gonna be like Tenko's age when he finds him.
And
I don't think it'd be 5 years old because I feel like we'll still get like that age for like maybe a chapter, or at least half a chapter.
I
'Cause
mean,
don't
like,
think like
he's-
that, those explosions, like chopping off those arms, is enough to trigger like a massive jump in age. Unless I'm wrong, I could be wrong.
I
That
mean,
would be cool, though.
he's gonna need another voice actor at the end here because like
I still stand by same
Uh,
voice actor. I think it'd be funny.
Yeah, no, do it.
Akio Otsuka still with that super deep voice.
There's no way, but like, come on, like,
I mean, I could see him taking the extra steps to have a quirk that allows him to manipulate his vocal cords just so he can always sound like himself.
This
yeah,
must
no,
be a
like,
very fun role to have because like when All for One debuted, he was like is kind of like really menacing, like kind of like super dark bad guy. But like as time has gone on, we've seen him he's kind of more of a trickster type of villain. And he's very deceptive.
Mhm.
well,
He's
he's
always-
also just loosening up generally.
Yeah, he's
Uh,
also like this must be a very fun role for the actors to have because like they're gonna get to chew the scenery a lot next season. Like he gets some of the most pure ham-fisted comic book dialogue ever
Yeah,
in the next season's content. So
Also, we finally won't have to deal with I can't believe the sky is blue merchants after a certain point. That'll
No,
be
you're gonna
nice.
get the I can't believe the sky is raining merchants.
uh
Well, actually, no, I take that back. We'll have to deal with the sky's blue merchants who pretend like they forgot that the weather was actually a narrative point within the series.
Yeah.
At this juncture. So that'll be awesome. Just like
It's
a
gonna-
high, deep blue battle.
yeah.
I'm still not over the fist, the statue's fist, and set against the backdrop of the sky. Like, I'm still not over that.
Deku's gonna get that same moment. for
Yeah,
sure.
he is. Yeah,
He's,
no,
he's
we're
gonna
we're gonna
like
break
the-
through the rain again.
Yeah, the fight is going to end when Deku clears the weather. When he has to muster up a smash that's strong enough to beat Shigaraki, and it's literally going to change. And this is a big cumulonimbus, right? It's stretching all over, like not just Japan. I think it's stretching over a lot of Asia. So he's going to disperse all of that.
I mean, like, you're right, because Hori has put so much emphasis on the currents, although it did have some purpose with the other battlefields. Like, it has to be cleared.
Mhm.
And like if it's a whole worldwide like clear, it would not only just surpass All Might, but be just on a big scale.
No,
would-
like remember when All Might first beats the sludge villain, it starts raining.
Mhm.
Like, now we got the total flip of it. Like and obviously narratively too, because now Deku and Bakugo are saving All Might, right? Or well, specifically Bakugo in this case, but like it's still like their
We'll
job
get-
to make sure that
We'll
like
give Deku
they're
some
doing the
flowers here.
heroism right now. So like it's a
Like-
total flip on chapter 1, and I'm so here for it.
Deku got to get some credit. He did fling that man like
Which
nobody's
is like-
business.
Which is exactly what happened like in the final exam arc, where like Bakugo finally learned to trust Deku a little bit, and he trusted him to get the victory. But he also went back to come and save him anyway, even though that wasn't necessarily part of the exam.
Yep.
He did it to prove a point. He did it to stand up to All Might, which was really the objective of that arc. It was him very gradually starting to let go of those notions that
All Might is an undefeatable god,
Mhm.
which I just want to say that part of the reason why I brought up the Bakugo chest thing though is because I really do want to see something on his chest, because
Like an Iron Heart.
I can buy a shot like stitching his like heart together,
The Jart.
but
Yes, the
like
Jarts.
I need something to like kind of make up for the sternum that would have been
Mhm.
damaged by
Like got
that.
blown to pieces. Yeah.
And
I can see us not getting it, but I would love to.
yeah, like I want like even
Yeah,
if it's
no,
not like a
Horikoshi
glowing
should take
heart,
advantage of every battle wound in this. Like Jiro
And
should get a cool mecha attachment for her ear. Like she should still have the quirk that functions through her ears, but because of the damage to her outer lobe, she could have a mecha lobe, maybe, or just all kinds of things could he could change the character designs in all kinds of subtle ways. But yeah, I'm looking
And-
forward to post series character designs a lot.
because it's also just the way that the clusters are arranged. He's got like 4 on his back and like the ones on his feet. It just finish the All Might, finish the Iron Man like imagery.
Yes.
Just dedicate yourself to it. It's very clear you're like doing all of it. So just give it to us.
Proof Katsuki Bakugo has a heart.
Like just give me the full Iron Man with the explosions and stuff, so he can get All Might to safety. Because honestly, he says time to win this. It's only time to win this if you get All Might out of there and then come back and fight. Which, if he's still impacted by gear shift, is totally believable.
Mhm.
Like, I think with gear shift, he should be fast enough. Because even pre-gear shift, Bakugo was fast enough that it took a bit. Like Shigaraki had to like actually work to react to him. Obviously, like when you just have that kind of firepower, you still just put him down. But in those short range bursts, like he was actually kind of a little confused with the speed. So put him down,
Okay.
come back.
Okay, guys, so here's the real question. How many chapters do you guess we have left? Because this is it, man. This is really it.
So hold on, let me pull up.
We're about in the middle of volume 40.
Yeah, I was just about to pull up the. You already know. You already knew what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Because I've said maybe 42 volumes, and then people were like, "Why?" And I was like, "It's 42." Like, but
The answer to the universe is 42.
let's see. So we don't have the defined chapter list yet for 39.
They're
but
normally 11 to 12 chapters now.
I do think we got the page count. So, yep, pages 184. We could sit here and count the pages of each chapter, but then we have to accommodate for the character forward, like the forward page in the beginning, table of contents page. So that's going to be about 3 or 4.
And then the extras.
Extra pages are going to count too. So, but even if we say, oh, we'll go 10 chapters into this one, then 397, then yeah, we'd be putting, which I guess the real way to look at this is to kind of look at what happened in certain chapters and see how they went down, because we should be able to kind of look at some of these chapters and get an idea of what could be the end. Let's see. Trash cleanup, Toshinori Rising. Let's see what we can see if we can get something out of this. Maybe get a clear speculative endpoint for a volume. Let's see. 196. So
you can fit. Sorry.
396 might not be a bad endpoint for this volume.
396.
But I don't know if it'll be enough pages. That's the only real question I have there.
Oh, 398 is the endpoint for volume 39.
Okay, you got confirmation of that?
Yeah.
Okay. So then let me see the 398. Something.
And these have been decent length chapters for the most part since 398. So
Yeah.
probably 10 or 11 chapters this volume. And then after that, you could wrap it up in one extended volume, but to be honest, I'm hoping for two.
Yeah, I'm thinking because there's still certain stuff that when we get to it could end up being a lot longer than people expect. Even because even the fight between All Might and All for One lasted longer than I think a lot of people expected.
Yeah, I mean, when you include this stuff that's been going for like 9 chapters now,
So
and even I know a couple of them were shorter, but still, that is fairly substantial. So then you get to like Deku versus Shigaraki, which is still going, and they have not really hit like the most serious part of that fight yet. That's probably going to be a volume in and of itself, and I think after a few more chapters, we're really going to get into the thick of that.
because 390, because basically it's 396 through, yep, it's so 396 through fucking now is still All Might versus All for One Fallout. But even if we don't want to look at it that way, then what would we say? 400? No, 400. He was still, because that's the controversial chapter.
401 was where he got blown to bits.
Yeah. So that's still like 5-6 chapters. We'd have to actually, that's when Stain shows up. So 401. 401 is the one that like was like the do your worst chapter. So yeah, that's like a solid 6 chapters of combat basically. And I doubt Deku's going to get a shorter fight, especially because we've deliberately kept them at a stalemate for a large portion of story.
You know what? I think Stain inadvertently initiated the chain of events to make sure All Might lived, because remember, All for One specifically used Blood Curdle. That's part of what is starting to regress him in age even faster. And it's also, I think, what gave Bakugo enough time, because All for One was making a big show of wanting to crack All Might open on his knee. Yeah. So I really, God, I really appreciate these details. Really look at them, because like it's like you see how little by little everything counts.
Yeah, because he does the Blood Curdle, and then that's when you see him like end up smiling super wide, and he looks even younger once he's using that. And then he, takes the time out to try to kill the Jets. So him taking the time to flex on All Might with the Blood Curdle just to make sure he has no other tricks, which is another one of those things where like All for One does differently than what he's saying, because he's acting like, oh, I broke your device, so you're not going to be able to do anything else, but also let me hear real quick, activate Blood Curdle to make sure you can't do anything else, right? Like the double bluffs of All for One. It's just that now these are really weak bluffs because he's actually desperate and trying to avoid acknowledging that. So yeah, and that's when he starts to go with the theatrics. But it works out. So yeah, I feel like we're probably still making it. We might still make it to the 10-year anniversary. But I can't. I don't think I see this going all the way through the end of next year. But getting to that halfway point of next year, maybe a little past that, probably where we wrap up.
I would like to see us end in spring, just symbolically speaking. But, it would be nice to have MHA a good way into the next year. I hope the ending isn't too abrupt. I mean, if anything, MHA certainly deserves a little bit of a longer epilogue. Like I could go an almost entire volume on it, but
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure we won't get a volume's worth of epilogue, but hopefully like most of a volume.
Is July 7th. So if you look at the volume of maybe like 10 chapters or 8 chapters, if the last chapter is like, a little longer, sometimes you get those big chapter finishes where it's like a 40-pager manga. It hasn't happened for a lot of series recently, but sometimes you get those bigger chapters to wrap things up. Then you could potentially see like the big battles all wrap up around March/May or like April, May, which ties in with like graduation themes and stuff like that, and kind of wrap that up. And then that May, June, and then the first week of July is basically just the epilogue chapters getting things in a row.
I hope we get some decent epilogue compared to like other Jump series. Like I know people want a full volume. You're probably not going to get that much, but I think you can very neatly wrap things up with like 5 or even 4 chapters of epilogue stuff.
Yeah. That's where I'm at. I want to see.
Is like, gosh, you have the Todoroki family, you have Uraraka and Deku, you have Bakugo and Deku, you have their other class 1A members that should also get something.
Also, Aoyama stuff, as much as some people don't care about it. Seeing
Aizawa and other pro heroes, Hawks, like
the Hero
We had
Safety
a-
Commission in general.
We had a
Right.
full volume of POW Fallout though, so I don't know. Maybe we are gonna get a full volume of stuff.
I would absolutely love it.
So yeah, if this conflict ends in like March, April, then it's possible that we get, a couple volumes worth of, or a volume worth of stuff to push us into July. I really would like us to hit the 10-year anniversary, just to, especially if that comes with like Horikoshi getting breaks, which is the other factor, because we have about maybe 6 more chapters this year, possibly 7.
Yeah,
Obviously the
Mhm.
first Jump volume gets leaked every year, so it'll come out.
I
like
love this
December.
time of year. So
But-
festive.
We got like 6
Yeah.
or 7 chapters left this year, so that's kind of the other thing too, is that
Yeah. December isn't going to be a whole. Is going to give us like 2.
Yeah.
Next month is our last full one.
yeah. And that's assuming there's no Horikoshi breaks next month.
Yeah, he's probably going to take a break after next chapter. I'm going to be honest.
So
Like
if we
he
get a
did,
break-
he did 4 spreads this chapter. They were all really detailed.
So we get a chapter next week, then I'm expecting a break somewhere in November, and then I'm expecting only 2 chapters in December, because I feel like since I've been doing MHA content, I feel like there's been 2 chapters in December as usually. So maybe if the weeks land a certain way, it might be 3, but I'm pretty sure we're just getting those 2. And then boom, we're gonna just move on and have the very final bits, because I think that even this juncture, because I don't think this ends the All Might portion of this conflict, but I think that the All Might portion of the conflict has to end before we get to the final stage of the battle at this location.
Mm-hmm.
So whether that's getting All Might to a hospital, whether that's whatever the situation is going to be for this, we got to get there. And then we can close out whatever's supposed to be happening with Shigaraki, All for One, and all that other stuff. Which I honestly kind of expect Deku to fight Shigaraki here, Bakugo to kind of spend time getting All Might away from All for One, Shigaraki to then go out of his way to grab All for One, while Deku's exhausted, and then for the fight to reconvene. Because I think that the All for One and All Might resolution have to be close to each other. But I also think that we've neglected, and I don't want it to turn out that like the knee-jerk reaction of we're never going to get Shigaraki's perspective on the other members of the league dying or being taken out of combat to be true. I don't want that to be true, because then that would kind of feel like a kind of hole in the story, because as much as our main cast has been the heart of it, so has the League of Villains and their journey, and watching them grow as an organization. Like losing Toga, like actually felt painful. Losing twice felt painful. So I want to make sure we get like an adequate wrap up on the League of Villains story as well. That's characters, I think they've earned it, and Horikoshi's set a pretty good precedent so far of making sure that those characters get, you know, that attention. So I'd like for that to stay consistent. But that's just me.
For sure.
But yeah, I guess we'll just kind of head into like a final thoughts territory, because I feel like we've kind of hit all the points we wanted to, unless somebody has something they feel like it's a really big group discussion point.
We made this an advertisement for Air Gear for like 20 minutes, and I don't
Yeah.
remember anything.
Yeah, I don't. Seth, let's get your final thoughts, just in case you end up having to go, because I know sometimes you leave early.
Yo.
Earlier.
All right. So let's see. So I was absent last week, but as far as the previous chapter goes, I think that it's obviously very tied into the events of this one. So much of what I had to say regarding Bakugo this week also applies to that week. But I would be remiss if I didn't just at least mention how much of a theater drama that was, and I loved it. Just the entire setup going into this chapter with All for One basically parading All Might like his own personal ragdoll that he gets to torture in front of a global audience. That entire sequence is absolutely masterclass professional hating. I loved every second of it. It is it's theater drama, and I am here for it. Like, this is the kind of stuff that you read manga for, I think. Like, it's exaggerated, it's over the top, but it looks so cool. All for One is tearing his own face with how happy he is. Just the smile, the Joker face. It's, oh my gosh. Horikoshi basically it's like having your cake and eating it too. You see the imagery, you can easily imagine what the world looks like with All for One winning and everything. Like, you saw it when he was beating up Bakugo, how brutally Bakugo was basically murdered visually and also literally, like that. But I digress. But of course, Bakugo is back to deny All for One everything, quite frankly. Like, All for One gets nothing, contrary to his name. So I'm really looking forward to the following up chapters where Bakugo continues to deny All for One what he truly desires. And I think that gosh, I'm not sure what more needs to be said other than that, other than just his Horikoshi's art has been incredible from both chapters back to back. I am surprised he has not taken a break, but I think Horikoshi has pretty much everything else planned at this point. I think there was the breaks earlier in the year were both to manage his health, but also to plan out the events that were about to unfold. And it really feels like Horikoshi knows exactly what he wants to do going forward. So I'm really excited. We're getting some of Horikoshi's best work, and we are probably still due for even more amazing art from him. I am just thoroughly entertained by the reading experience. I mentioned about the anime before, how, usually the anime tends to have things that are just like more production value than a manga. And to a point that's still true, but like, denying yourself Horikoshi's art is just, don't do that. Like, it's really the complete experience to have read the manga and watched the anime. I think they go so well together. So yeah, I think we're eating very good right now with MHA, and I am looking forward very much to the actual fighting that will happen. Like, we need All For One is gonna regrow his hands and start doing stuff. Who knows how unhinged he's gonna be now that he's been denied his kill. And then of course we're gonna see what Deku and Shigaraki shapes up to be. We got a lot of these were very emotional chapters, but I think now we're due for some more action. But yeah, no, beautiful chapter or chapters, and can't wait for next time. Thank you for having me, as always.
All right, glad to have you here, sir. Volk.
This was a great payoff for both Bakugo's character and as well as like the prophecy of All Might's death. Like, this series is all about, you know, defying expectations, pushing past your limits, and yada yada, good old shonen stuff. And what better way of showing that than having somebody who you are certain is going to die, somebody who is in the mentor Obi-Wan role, somebody who is all but marked for death, to push through and defy even that, and proving that you can become that you are among the greatest of heroes. I think this chapter really gets to the heart of what MHA is about. I really love the artwork. I really love how this is the culmination of Deku and Bakugo's journey together. I don't necessarily think every step has been super well illustrated, but I think when it comes to those key moments, they are very well represented. I much prefer this compared to Heroes Rising. I think this was a better. I think this was a better use of both of their arcs. It was a better lesson for Bakugo to learn. It was a better demonstration of how they work together, simply more than like simply, oh, we're going to fight the big bad guy together. They're still doing that, but not in a way that's like, oh, just pure shonen meathead stuff. It's like, well, no, it is very much about emotional catharsis and payoff. And Bakugo gets to make up for what happened at Kamino, which he was, really agonized about, even for a long time after. And so now it's like, now that they've really resolved that and are bringing things together, yeah, it's just amazing to see. I really love this chapter. I think basically everybody gets to win here from what went down. I'm very much looking forward to what happens next, because it's looking like AFO's on the way out, and I'm really looking forward to like Deku versus Shigaraki proper, right? Like, it's been a long road getting here, basically, though, not just this final arc, but the whole series has been leading up to this point. Now that, Deku and Bakugo, I think, have really come full circle on their relationship and repaired their friendship, I think it's time for Deku to march forward and end this once and for all. And he's got gear shift activated, so he's on the clock again. Man, this series really gets me like nothing else. I really hope to see the other characters, Ochako, Shoto. Like, I hope they get to see Deku do his big hero moments, because it's coming very soon. Whether it's a matter of weeks or months, probably still a few months away. But yeah, excellent chapter. Really, we're probably heading towards one of the best endings to a Shonen Jump series in a long time. Really happy.
Appreciate those thoughts. Thomas?
Hello. First of all, I adore this chapter so much. I think this arc, especially the saga, has really boosted Bakugo up in my like top 10 favorite like MHA characters. I started off the series not liking Bakugo because him as a character reminded me of people I know in real life. So I had it was kind of petty for me not to like his character, but currently I love how Hori has written him and where he is currently. Especially the the teamwork between Deku and Bakugo. It really is special seeing two characters. All they need is one look, and they know what to do. It's just fantastic, especially the callback to like what folks said to their fight against All Might, or like also Excalibur. It's so sick. Not to mention, Gear Shift is one of my favorite quirks of the entire series, and learning more about it is something I really want to know. Like, we know the second user because of it. The state, it's not the same as it was with Deku. Like back then, it was just a pea shooter, like All Might said. But how the second user was using it, it was more so for projectiles, right? He wasn't enhancing himself against All For One. That we know of. I would like to learn how long it lasts on a person or an object. Does it take like 5 minutes, maybe 2, or is it built for projectiles? So like Bakugo would be this projectile. Last chapter I missed it, but I just want to say that I love All Might introspection, and seeing like he was inspired by Anpan Man is just so adorable. And like the theme song of Why Was I Made? What Am I Here to Do? Is like, it ties directly into All Might's character as well. And I love that.
Oh
But
no, I
overall,
forgot to gush about that. That is
It's
low
so
key my
cute.
favorite part of this entire 2 chapters was
Mhm.
like not even Bakugo. It was All Might. Just oh
Yep.
my gosh.
Baby All Might, especially when we get to see his mom. Like, that's
Yes.
like, I don't need to see his father at this point. The mom is all I need.
Goated.
She's also
Oh.
adorable. She's
Like,
just a woman All Might. That
how
star.
can he keep
I mean,
getting away
stars.
with this? Just peak
Exactly.
character design after peak character design. I can't.
I just, man, I for the longest we were like going back and forth, the entire community, on like what the vestige All Might was, because there was 2 series, right, or that people were bringing up. It was All Might hasn't died yet, and that it was the quirkless heroes, or quirkless people who have One For All, who would have that body. But I'm really glad that he just didn't die yet. And I just, every little detail about quirks is just it's so good. Hori has created this power system, this how quirks are, and people have been underestimating it, saying it's not as interesting as magic, which is bullshit, by the way. Magic is so boring, and I want to have that conversation, not now. I don't know, this chapter is fantastic. Seeing everyone wish on All Might, especially with the chapter name "We Love You, All Might," man, I want to gush, but I won't. Fantastic chapter. I really want to see what All Might and Bakugo does next chapter. Like, does Bakugo just go straight towards somewhere safe and come back, or does All For One use the goop quirk to bring him back? And then there's a whole chase sequence, which would be really cool. Because from what we learned from Star and Strife, he really does well with aerial battles. Like, that's Bakugo's whole shtick. He's an aerial fighter. But yeah, fantastic chapter. Everyone should like the stream if you haven't. Okay, Tyler, I agree. Like the stream if you haven't. Drink some water, eat some food, and if you don't mind me, I'm gonna go back to Spider-Man because I am obsessed. But yeah, that's it.
Thank you to everybody that came through. Looks like we have a chapter next week, so we'll be there then. I got all my thoughts out during the stream. I'm just looking forward to these next, like, seeing how everything is tied up in the story, because I've been very satisfied with where it was going. All right. Seeing Thomas say it should have been me is my cue to go ahead and end the stream here. Thank you for everybody who came.